The heat vision came first, twin beams of concentrated thermal energy that would have vaporized a normal human instantly. Android 18 tilted her head 6 inches to the left. The beams carved through the air where her face had been, scorching the concrete behind her and sending the front row of spectators scrambling backward with screams of panic. She hadn't moved her feet, hadn't shifted her stance, just a casual adjustment of neck angle that made Homelander's attack look like a child throwing a tantrum. "You just tried to kill me," 18 said, her voice carrying across the suddenly silent venue with perfect clarity. In front of 3,000 witnesses, including children. Homelander's jaw tightened. "You're clearly enhanced, dangerous. I was defending." She moved. One moment she was standing on the cracked concrete. The next she was directly in front of him, 15 feet in the air, having crossed the distance faster than the cameras could track. Her hand gripped his wrist, not hard, just firmly enough to stop him from moving. "Don't," she said quietly, meeting his shocked gaze with eyes that had witnessed the destruction of galaxies. "I've fought gods, literal gods, universe-ending threats. You're not even close." Homelander tried to pull away, failed, tried to fly backward, couldn't, tried to heat vision her face from 6 inches away. 18 caught the beams with her free hand, Kai energy automatically forming a barrier that dispersed the thermal attack into harmless light. She tanked worse from Vegeta's final flash during sparring sessions. "Impossible," Homelander whispered, and for the first time genuine emotion crossed his face. Fear. She released him, dropping back to the ground in a controlled descent. "I don't want to fight you. I don't want to be here at all. I just want to figure out how to get home to my family." Around them, the crowd had gone completely silent. Phones were out, hundreds of them, recording everything. The other heroes on stage stood frozen, clearly unsure whether to intervene. Security had their weapons raised but seemed equally uncertain about what to do when their strongest asset had just been casually dismissed. Starlight was the first to move, stepping forward with hands raised in supplication. "Everyone, please remain calm. This is just a misunderstanding. No one's been hurt." "Yet," Homelander said, landing beside her with enough force to crack the stage. His composure was returning, but 18 could see the calculations running behind his eyes. Threat assessment, damage control, how to spin this. But we can't just let an unknown enhanced individual wander off, not after that display. "Watch me," 18 said, and launched herself into the air. She kept it subsonic, no need to shatter windows or deafen bystanders, but fast enough that pursuit would be difficult. Behind her, she heard Homelander shout something, probably orders to follow her, but she was already kilometers away and accelerating. The city sprawled below her, massive and glittering and wrong in ways she couldn't quite articulate. Too many advertisements, too much corporate branding. Everything felt calculated, manufactured, designed to sell something. She'd seen dystopias before, had lived through the android timeline in Trunks' stories, where she and her brother had turned Earth into a playground for their cruelty. This was different. This was oppression wearing a smile, tyranny wrapped in patriotic colors and focus-grouped messaging. "Need information. Need to understand this world before I can find a way home." She descended into a less affluent neighborhood. The buildings here were shorter, older, covered in graffiti that included several crude depictions of the Seven with less than flattering captions. Landed in an alley between a closed bodega and a pawn shop, her boots splashing in something she chose not to identify. A man in a stained hoodie stumbled backward from where he'd been urinating against the wall, eyes wide with terror. "Shit, I wasn't. I'm just, please don't laser me." "Relax," 18 said, smoothing her vest. "I'm not going to hurt you, just need directions. Where's the nearest library?" "Library?" He blinked, clearly expecting violence rather than literary inquiry. 3 blocks north, but it's closed, it's like 8 p.m. She glanced at the sky. He was right, the sun was setting. Time dilation from the dimensional travel, probably. Then where do people go for information? Internet cafes, public computers. "Lady, you got a phone, right? Everyone's got a phone." 18 patted her pockets, already knowing the answer. "Left it at home. Different dimension." "Different?" He stared at her for a long moment, then shook his head. "You know what? Not my business. Look, there's a 24-hour diner 2 blocks east. Free Wi-Fi if you buy coffee, but you're gonna want to avoid the main streets. Vaught's got facial recognition everywhere, and after that stunt at the rally." He gestured vaguely at her entire existence. "Appreciate it." She pulled out her wallet, thanked the Kais it had survived the dimensional transit, and handed him a bill. Then paused, looking at the currency. Wrong. Completely wrong. The colors were different. The president's face was someone she didn't recognize. The security features were decades behind what she was used to. The man took it anyway, examining it suspiciously. "This some kind of foreign money?" "Something like that. Will it work?" "Hell if I know. Looks real enough." He pocketed it quickly, as if afraid she'd change her mind. "Diner's called Santino's. Tell Maria that Gecko sent you, she'll set you up." "Gecko?" He grinned, showing missing teeth. "That's me. And hey, thanks for embarrassing Homelander. That corporate fascist has been needing someone to take him down a peg for years." 18 filed that information away and headed for the diner, keeping to side streets and moving at normal human speed. No need to draw more attention. Santino's was exactly what she expected. Cracked vinyl booths, fluorescent lights with one flickering bulb, the smell of burnt coffee and decades-old grease. A handful of late-night customers occupied scattered tables, most of them staring at phones or laptops with the glazed expression of people trying to avoid going home. The woman behind the counter, Maria, presumably, was in her 50s, heavyset, with eyes that had seen too much to be surprised by anything. She took one look at 18 and jerked her head toward a corner booth. "Coffee's $2.50. Refills are free. Wi-Fi password is on the menu. And honey, you might want to turn your face away from that camera." She pointed at a security camera aimed at the entrance. "Is that going to be a problem?" "Depends on whether Vought decides you're worth finding. But Gecko called ahead, said you might need a quiet place. We take care of our own around here." Maria poured a cup without being asked, slid it across the counter. "Those corporate heroes don't come to this neighborhood much. We're not photogenic enough for their PR." 18 took the coffee, inhaled the bitter steam. It smelled terrible compared to what Krillin made every morning. "You don't like them?" "Kid, nobody in this neighborhood likes them. A train ran through here last year chasing some small-time dealer, put a woman through a brick wall. She died. Vought paid off her family, buried the story, and that speedster ass was back on TV a week later selling sneakers." Maria's expression went hard. "They're not heroes. They're products with good marketing." "Just like I thought." 18 took her coffee to the corner booth, positioning herself so she could see both entrances and the camera, then pulled out Maria's elderly laptop. The Wi-Fi connected after 3 tries, and she began searching. "VOUGHT International. Superhero Management Corporation, Pharmaceutical Division, Entertainment Conglomerate. Estimated value, $800 billion. CEO, Stan Edgar. Primary product, the Seven. The Seven, Homelander leader, Queen Maeve, A-Train, the Deep, Black Noir, Starlight newest member. Translucent, recently deceased under mysterious circumstances. Compound V, proprietary enhancement drug, creates superhuman abilities, officially only administered to consenting adults in controlled trials, unofficially. The search results changed as she typed, autocomplete suggestions revealing darker truths. Compound V bobbies. Compound V forced injection. Compound V side effects death. Vought lawsuit settlement. She clicked on an independent news site, one of the few not owned by Vought subsidiaries, and found articles detailing suspicious patterns. Superhuman births concentrated near Vought facilities. Non-disclosure agreements with new parents. Children developing powers at age 2 or 3, too young to have consented to any trial. Her coffee cup cracked in her hand. Easy, Maria called from the counter. Those cups cost money. Sorry, 18 set down the shattered ceramic carefully, forcing her hands to unclench. Just reading something upsetting. About Vought, yeah, that'll do it. Most people don't look too close though. Easier to believe the heroes are real. 18 continued searching, building a mental profile of this world. The more she learned, the more familiar patterns emerged. Dr. Jiro had enhanced children too in his early experiments, created weapons out of unwilling subjects. She and her brother had been adults, technically volunteers, though coerced by threat, but Jiro's early work had involved far younger subjects. All of them had died. The thought of Marin, sweet, innocent Marin, who loved pancakes and puppy videos and wanted to be a martial artist like her parents, in Dr. Jiro's laboratory, on one of those cold steel tables. She forced the image away, focused on the immediate problem, finding information about dimensional travel, energy signatures that might indicate portal technology, any scientific organization that wasn't owned by Vought and might have the resources to help her get home. A news alert popped up on the laptop. Breaking unknown super HOMLATS HOMLANDER-AT Easter rally. She clicked it, watched shaky phone footage of their confrontation. The comments section was already exploding. Finally, someone put that fascist in his place. Fake has to be CGI. No one's that strong. Vought plan, probably setting up next season's storyline. She's hot, does anyone know who she is? Bet Homelander's ego is shattered, Elmau. You're already internet famous, Maria observed, appearing with fresh coffee and a slice of pie she hadn't ordered. On the house, and some advice. Vought's gonna come looking for you. They can't afford to have someone that powerful running around unsupervised. You either join them or you become their enemy. What if I just want to leave? Then you better figure out how fast, because Stan Edgar doesn't accept wildcards in his game. 18 ate the pie decent, nothing special, and continued researching. Hours passed. The diner's other customers left, replaced by different night owls. Maria refilled her coffee 3 times without comment. Around midnight, the door chimed. 18's combat instincts activated immediately. The woman who entered moved wrong, too controlled. Her energy signature similar to Starlight's but with a harder edge. Queen Maeve, according to her armor and the costume design that matched internet images. One of the 7, the strongest woman in the world, supposedly, though 18 could sense she was weaker than Homelander by a notable margin. Maeve scanned the diner, locked eyes with 18 and walked over. Sat down across from her without invitation. "You're either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid," Maeve said quietly. "Embarrassing Homelander like that. He attacked first. I just defended myself." "Yeah, I saw the footage. Everyone saw the footage. 30 million views in 3 hours. Maeve gestured at the laptop. "Vaught's PR team is losing their minds trying to spin it. Homelander's in his penthouse having what I can only describe as a psychotic episode. Not my problem. It will be. He doesn't forget, doesn't forgive. And he's got the resources of Vought International behind him." Maeve leaned forward, her voice dropping even lower. "Look, I don't know who you are or where you came from, but you need to understand what you've walked into. Vought owns everything. The media, the politicians, half the justice system. The Seven aren't heroes, we're products. And Homelander is the flagship product, which means he gets whatever he wants, including murdering people who embarrass him." Maeve's jaw tightened. "Including that?" 18 studied her, nodding, the exhaustion in her eyes, the careful way she held herself. This was someone who'd been broken down and rebuilt, not through artificial enhancement, but through years of compromise and complicity. "Why are you telling me this?" 18 asked. "Because I saw what you did, how you moved, how easily you stopped him. And I'm wondering if maybe finally there's someone strong enough to actually do something about all this." Maeve's hand moved to her pocket, pulled out a burner phone. "This is untraceable. I'm the only one with the number. If you decide to take Vought down, really take them down, not just expose them or wound them, call me. I'll help however I can." She stood to leave, then paused. "And if you're just trying to go home and stay out of it, run. Run far and fast, because Homelander will come for you, and when he does, he won't care about witnesses or cameras or laws." After Maeve left, 18 sat in the silent diner, weighing options. She could run, keep low, hide her energy signature, find someone with dimensional expertise who wasn't connected to Vought. Get home to Krillin and Marin, back to her peaceful life of martial arts training and lazy Sunday mornings. But the Bobbies, the children being injected with an experimental serum without consent, the corruption wearing hero costumes, the fact that Homelander had tried to kill her in front of thousands of civilians without hesitation. Dr. Jiro's laboratory flashed through her mind again. Damn it. She pulled out the burner phone, didn't call Maeve, but instead opened its basic browser. Searched for one specific phrase she'd seen mentioned multiple times in articles about Vought: the Boys. Underground vigilante group, led by Billy Butcher, former CIA operative, known for violent attacks against SUPs, wanted by federal authorities. Last confirmed sighting, Brooklyn. 18 finished her coffee, left a generous tip for Maria, and headed for the door. "Good luck," Maria called after her. "You're gonna need it." Outside, the city hummed with artificial light and hidden corruption. Somewhere, Homelander was planning her death. Somewhere, children were being turned into weapons without choice. Somewhere, a family was waiting for her to come home. Android 18 looked up at the unfamiliar stars, thought of her daughter's smile, and made her decision. "This is going to delay getting home," she said to the empty street. "Krillin's going to be so worried." Then she launched herself into the sky, heading for Brooklyn, to find the people crazy enough to fight gods with nothing but human determination and improvised weapons. She'd done crazier things. If you're enjoying this story, consider subscribing for more crossover battles and what if scenarios exploring your favorite characters in unexpected universes. Brooklyn at 2 a.m. looked like every other city district Android 18 had seen: dark alleys, flickering streetlights, the occasional homeless person huddled in doorways. But the graffiti here was different, more pointed, more angry. HOMELANDER equals Nazi was spray painted across one building in letters 10 feet tall. Another wall showed a crude but effective caricature of the Seven standing on piles of corpses while counting money. She'd been searching for 3 hours, following energy signatures and rumors from the few people still awake at this hour. The boys were careful: no permanent base, constant movement, multiple safe houses scattered across the city. But they left traces, small ones. A pattern of attacks against Vought facilities that suggested coordination and insider knowledge. 18 was about to expand her search radius when she felt it. A spike of familiar artificial energy, the same signature as Homelander's but moving fast, very fast, coming from deeper in the city, headed toward. Her enhanced hearing picked up screaming. She moved. The scene resolved as she closed the distance. A residential street, modest brownstones, families asleep behind locked doors. And in the middle of the street, Homelander hovered 10 feet off the ground, heat vision active, methodically burning through the front of a specific building. "I know you're in there, Gecko." Homelander's voice carried that same corporate-friendly tone from the rally, but with an edge of genuine enjoyment now. "You gave information to that bitch, helped her hide. That makes you an accessory to assaulting a federal officer." 18 landed on a rooftop across the street, staying in shadows, watching. The building's front door exploded outward, not from Homelander's heat vision, but from someone kicking it open from inside. Gecko stumbled out, face bloody, one arm hanging at a wrong angle. Behind him, a woman and 2 children. "Please," Gecko gasped, positioning himself between Homelander and his family. I just told her where to get coffee, that's all. I didn't know who she was." "You didn't know?" Homelander descended slowly, boots touching pavement with theatrical precision. "You didn't know that helping an unregistered super is a federal crime? You didn't know that Vought International takes threats to national security very seriously?" "She wasn't a threat, she just wanted directions." "She embarrassed me." Homelander's voice went flat, empty of all pretense. "In front of 30 million people, and you helped her do it." His eyes began to glow. Android 18 had seen enough. She dropped from the rooftop, not bothering with subtlety, landing between Homelander and Gecko hard enough to crack the asphalt in a 10-foot radius. The shockwave knocked Homelander back 3 steps, not because of force, but because of surprise. "You," he breathed, and something ugly twisted across his face. "Perfect. Saved me the trouble of hunting you down." "Walk away," 18 said quietly, not looking at him, her attention on Gecko and his family. "Get inside, all of you, now." Gecko didn't need to be told twice. He scooped up his children, his wife supporting his injured arm, and they scrambled back into their damaged home. "You think you can just appear whenever you want?" Homelander rose back into the air, positioning himself at his preferred fighting altitude. "Interfere with legitimate law enforcement. This man is a criminal." He told a stranger where to find coffee. 18 finally looked at him and let him see exactly what she thought of his justifications. "And you were going to murder him and his family for it, in front of his children." "I was going to bring him in for questioning." "Your eyes were glowing, your heat vision was active. You were 3 seconds from killing them." She crossed her arms. "I've met people like you before, bullies who hide behind authority. The difference is those people actually had asterisk power. You're just disappointingly weak. The street lights around them exploded. Not from any attack, from the sheer force of Homelander's rage manifesting as uncontrolled energy release. Weak, his voice cracked, control slipping. I am the strongest man alive. I can do whatever I want. I'm the Homelander, I'm. 18 moved, closing the distance between them faster than his enhanced vision could track, and grabbed his cape. Yanked him down hard enough that he cratered the street when he hit. Let me tell you about real power, she said, kneeling beside the crater where he lay stunned. Real power is holding back, choosing not to destroy things because you can, using strength to protect people weaker than you, not to terrorize them. She hauled him up by the cape, lifted him to eye level. You're not a hero. You're not even a good villain. You're just a spoiled child with abilities you didn't earn, throwing tantrums when you don't get your way. Homelander's heat vision activated at point-blank range. 18 let it hit her face, the beam splashing across her skin without leaving a mark. She didn't even blink. Is that your best? She asked. Something broke in Homelander's expression. The realization that his strongest attack was completely ineffective. That for the first time in his life, he'd encountered someone he couldn't hurt, couldn't intimidate, couldn't control. He teleported. No, flew, just faster than she'd seen him move before, trying to escape her grip. She held on. They shot upward, accelerating toward the stratosphere, Homelander desperately trying to break free while 18 just held on. Casual, effortless, like holding a struggling toddler. At 30,000 feet, she stopped, let him pull away. Go ahead, she said, her voice carrying perfectly despite the thin air and howling wind. Try whatever you want. Use your full power. No witnesses up here. No cameras, just you and me. Homelander hovered 20 feet away, chest heaving despite not needing to breathe. His costume whipped in the jet stream, and in the moonlight, she could see something she'd only glimpsed before. He was afraid. Not cautious, not concerned, genuinely deeply afraid. What are you? He whispered. I'm someone who's fought people who could destroy planets, beings who have erased entire universes, gods who make your powers look like party tricks. She drifted closer and he flinched. I came here by accident. I just want to go home to my family. But if you hurt innocent people because of your ego, if you kill anyone else because they embarrassed you, I will come back. This is my world, Homelander said, but his voice lacked conviction. Vought owns this world. We can make you disappear. We have resources you can't imagine. Then use them to find a way to send me home and I'll leave. But until then. She let energy crackle around her fist, Kai control she'd learned from years of training with Krillin. The blue-white light made Homelander flinch again. Stay away from people who can't defend themselves, or the next time we meet, I won't be this gentle. She dropped, falling back toward the city in a controlled descent, leaving Homelander alone at the edge of space. Behind her, she heard him scream, a wordless sound of frustration and impotent rage that probably shattered windows for miles. Good, let him be afraid. Maybe it'll make him think twice. She landed back on Gecko Street, found the family huddled in their living room, windows boarded, door barricaded. Knocked gently. Gecko opened it with a baseball bat raised, then nearly dropped it when he saw her. Holy shit, you're alive. He didn't. I'm fine, he won't bother you again. She pulled out most of the cash from her wallet, useless foreign currency to her, but maybe it would work here. For the damages, and I'm sorry I brought trouble to your door. Lady, you just went toe-to-toe with Homelander twice in one day and won both times. Gecko took the money with shaking hands. You didn't bring trouble. You are asterisk trouble, the best kind. His wife appeared behind him, children clinging to her legs. Thank you, she said simply. He would have killed us. Everyone knows what he does to people who cross him, but no one can stop him because of Vought. Someone should, 18 said. Maybe someone will. She was about to leave when Gecko grabbed her arm. Froze immediately when he realized what he'd done, but she didn't pull away. The boys, he said quickly. You're looking for them, right? I know someone who knows someone. They've been looking for you too after that stunt at the rally. Want me to set up a meeting? 18 considered, then nodded. Somewhere public, daytime, multiple exits. Smart. There's a Korean barbecue place in Flushing, Mama Kim's. Tomorrow noon, I'll get word to them. He released her arm. And lady, whatever you do, be careful. Homelander's not the only problem. Vaught's got reach you can't imagine. I've dealt with worse. Yeah, but have you dealt with corporations? With lawyers and politicians and media manipulation? Because that's how they really fight. The superpowers are just for show. 18 thought about Capsule Corp, about the political maneuvering she'd witnessed between Earth's governments and the various alien species they'd encountered, about how Dr. Giro had been funded by the Red Ribbon Army's corporate empire. I'll manage, she said, and disappeared into the night sky. Mama Kim's Korean barbecue was exactly what Gecko had promised. Public, crowded, with exits on 3 sides and enough ambient noise to mask conversation. Android 18 arrived 15 minutes early, took a corner booth with sightlines to all entrances, and ordered water while she waited. The lunch crowd was thick, mostly Korean families and young professionals, everyone focused on their own meals and conversations. Good. Less chance of collateral damage if things went wrong. At exactly noon, 4 people entered. 3 men and 1 woman, moving like a unit despite trying to appear casual. The leader was obvious, tall, dark-haired, British from the way he carried himself, with eyes that assessed every person in the restaurant as either threat or asset. Billy Butcher had to be. The photos on conspiracy websites matched, though they didn't capture the intensity he radiated. The others, a young man with nervous energy and a kind face, Huey, probably. A muscular black man wearing a Knicks jersey, Mother's Milk, according to her research, and a wiry Frenchman with a manic smile, Frenchie, obviously. They sat without being invited, Butcher taking the seat across from her, while the others positioned themselves strategically around the booth. So, Butcher said, his accent thick and unapologetically working class, you're the bird who made Homelander look like a right Muppet, twice, in 24 hours. And you're the people who fight sups with explosives and improvisation, 18 replied. Brave or suicidal? Bit of both, love, bit of both. Butcher grinned, but it didn't reach his eyes. Question is, what's your game? You work for Vought, some kind of long-term PR stunt. I'm not from this world. Dimensional accident. I just want to go home. Right, dimensional travel, course. Butcher glanced at Huey, who shrugged. And you just happened to land at a Vought event, just happened to humiliate their golden boy, just happened to save some random bloke from execution. The first part was accident, the rest. 18 met his gaze steadily. Where I come from, I used to be a weapon, someone else's tool. Took me a long time to become something better. I recognize the signs now. Homelander, the Seven, they're not heroes. They're products being sold to people who don't know better. And that bothers you. Mother's Milk asked, his voice careful. The part where they inject bobbies without consent bothers me. The part where they murder people and cover it up bothers me. The part where they present themselves as saviors while being predators. Yes, that bothers me. Butcher studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. All right, let's say I believe you. Let's say you're exactly what you claim to be, some interdimensional superbird who just wants to go home. What do you want from us? Information, resources, help finding someone who understands dimensional physics. She leaned forward slightly. And in exchange, I can help you with your Vought problem. Our Vought problem, Frenchie laughed, is that they have unlimited money, political connections, and 7 of the most powerful sups on Earth protecting them. What exactly can you do about that? 18 raised her hand. Let Kai energy dance across her fingers, pure blue-white power that made the air shimmer with heat. Every person at the booth except Butcher leaned back instinctively. Butcher just smiled wider. Well, fuck me, that's not Compound V, is it? No, this is something I learned, trained for, earned. She let the energy dissipate. I can't be bought, can't be controlled, and I'm stronger than anything Vaught's created. Stronger than Homelander, Huey asked quietly. Because I've seen what he can do. I've seen. His voice caught. I've seen him kill people like they were nothing. He tried to kill me twice. Didn't work. Won't work. 18's expression softened slightly at the pain in Huey's voice. Who did he take from you? My girlfriend. A train ran through her at super speed, turned her into, Huey's hands clenched on the table, into red mist. Vought paid me off, tried to make me sign an NDA. I didn't. Good, 18 said simply. Don't let them make you complicit. Butcher pulled out a tablet, slid it across the table. That's everything we've got on Vaught's operations. Labs, black sites, financial records we've hacked. You want to help? Start there. But I need to know, when push comes to shove, when Homelander and all his supercunt friends come at you with everything they've got, you gonna run? Or you gonna stand? Android 18 thought of Marin, of the peaceful life she'd built after years of being Dr. Jiro's weapon. Thought of how desperately she wanted to go home, to wake up in her own bed with Krillin beside her. Then she thought of Gecko's children, clinging to their mother while Homelander prepared to murder them. Of all the other children being injected with Compound V without choice. Of a world where evil wore hero costumes and no one could stop them. I'll stand, she said, until I find a way home or until Vought stops poisoning children, whichever comes first. Butcher's grin turned genuine. Well then, love, welcome to the boys. Thanks for reading. Subscribe to follow Android 18's war against Vought and see what happens when real power meets corporate corruption. The tablet contained horrors. Android 18 sat in the boys' current safe house, a condemned building in Queens that smelled like mold and had electrical wiring Frenchie had borrowed from neighboring structures and scrolled through years of documented atrocities. Compound V clinical trials on prisoners, soup on civilian violence covered up by Vought legal teams, financial records showing payments to families of collateral damage, video footage of the 7 committing acts that would be war crimes if SUPs were subject to international law. And the bobbies, so many bobbies. Vaught's been doing it for decades, Mother's Milk explained, sitting beside her while the others prepared equipment for tonight's operation. They inject Compound V into infants, sometimes with parental consent obtained through coercion, sometimes without any consent at all. Most kids don't survive. The ones that do develop powers by age 3 or 4. How many don't survive? 18 asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted the answer. 73% mortality rate in the first year. MM's jaw tightened. My father worked at one of their labs, tried to expose them. Vought buried him, literally, made it look like a heart attack. 18's hands clenched on the tablet, and the metal frame groaned under the pressure. She forced herself to relax before she crushed it entirely. The lab we're hitting tonight, she said, changing the subject before her anger manifested as Kai blasts. Tell me about it. Butcher appeared from the back room, weapons harness strapped across his chest, looking like a man preparing for war. Sage Grove Center. Officially, it's a mental health facility. Unofficially, it's where Vought tests their more experimental Compound V variants. They've got about 40 subjects there. Adults this time, all of them either volunteers who didn't read the fine print or people who were committed against their will. Security. Heavy, armed guards, multiple SUPs on staff, surveillance system that make the NSA jealous. Butcher grinned. Which is why we've never been able to hit it before. Too much firepower, too many variables, but now we've got you. What's the objective? 18 asked. Primary, destroy all Compound V samples and research data. Secondary, extract any subjects who want to leave. Tertiary, get footage of everything for our friends in the media. Huey held up a small camera. I'll be handling documentation. You're going in with us. 18 looked at him. This nervous young man who clearly wasn't a fighter, whose hand still shook slightly when he talked about his dead girlfriend. Someone has to record evidence, and I'm not letting anyone else risk their lives while I sit in the van. Huey's voice was quiet but firm. Robin died because of Compound V. If I can help stop more people from dying, I have to. 18 recognized that determination, had seen it in Gohan's eyes before Cell, in Krillin's face before every impossible battle. The decision to stand despite fear, because standing was the only thing that mattered. All right, she said, but you stay behind me, all of you do. If shooting starts, I handle it. Love, we've been fighting SUPs for. I know, and you've done it by being smart, being prepared, and being willing to use lethal force. 18 stood, meeting Butcher's gaze without flinching. But tonight, you've got someone who can stop bullets with her face. Use that advantage. Let me take the risks. Butcher studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Fair enough, but if you go down... I won't. If you go down, he continued, we extract immediately. No heroic last stands. Agreed. Agreed. Sage Grove Center sat in rural Pennsylvania, isolated enough that screaming wouldn't reach neighbors. The facility looked peaceful from the outside. Manicured lawns, modern architecture, subtle lighting that suggested healing and tranquility. The barbed wire fence and armed guards ruined the illusion. Right, Butcher whispered from their position in the tree line, 100 yards from the main entrance. Frenchie's jammers should give us 30 minutes before their security system alerts Vought Central. 18, you're our battering ram. We go in hard, move fast, and... Android 18 was already walking toward the gate. Or we could just do that, muttered. Jesus Christ. She didn't bother with subtlety. Just walked up to the main entrance where 2 guards stood with assault rifles and waited for them to notice her. Ma'am, this is a restricted facility, one guard said, hand moving to his weapon. You need to. I'm here to shut this place down, 18 said pleasantly. You can leave now or you can try to stop me. Your choice. Both guards raised their weapons. 18's side moved faster than they could track and gently, relatively speaking, tapped both of them on the temple. They crumpled, unconscious but alive. "Non-lethal when possible," she said to the boys as they caught up. "These guards might not know what's really happening here." Spoken like someone who's never had a guard shoot at them, Butcher grumbled, but he didn't argue. The front door was reinforced steel with biometric locks. 18 placed her palm against it, let Kai energy flow through the metal, and the locking mechanism melted from the inside. She pulled the door open, hinges shrieking in protest, and stepped into a reception area that looked like any hospital lobby, except for the woman floating 3 feet off the ground behind the desk, eyes glowing purple. "Intruder alert," the floating woman said, her voice echoing with unnatural resonance. "Security Protocol Alpha, eliminate all." 18 appeared in front of her, moving faster than the telekinetic could react, and delivered a measured strike to her solar plexus. The woman gasped, her powers cutting out, and dropped into 18's arms. "Sleep," 18 said, laying her gently on the floor. "You're a victim too." Alarms began blaring. Apparently Frenchie's jammers couldn't block internal systems. Red lights flashed in the corridors, and 18 could hear boots pounding from multiple directions. "Plan just became a fighting retreat," Butcher announced, pulling out what looked like a grenade launcher. "Everyone stays together, we find the lab, we burn it, we leave." "I'll run point," 18 said. "Huey, you're with me. Document everything, the rest of you watch our backs." They moved deeper into the facility, 18 leading with Huey close behind, his camera recording everything. The corridors were clinical, sterile, with doors marked with codes rather than names. Through small windows, she glimpsed padded rooms, restraints, people in medical gowns who looked more like prisoners than patients. "Jesus," Huey whispered, his camera capturing it all. "This is worse than the files said." A door at the end of the corridor exploded outward, and a man emerged, 7 feet tall, muscles bulging grotesquely, skin covered in what looked like armored scales. His eyes were wild, unfocused, and foam dripped from his mouth. "Subject 37, a voice crackled over intercoms. "Restrain the intruders, full force authorized." The man, Subject 37, roared and charged. 18 met him head-on, caught his punch with one hand, and smoothly redirected his momentum into the wall. He cratered the concrete but came up immediately, unfazed. "Regeneration," she noted. "Enhanced strength maybe class 50, durability above baseline, reduced cognitive function probably a side effect." "Are you analyzing him while fighting?" Huey asked incredulously. "Force of habit." 18 dodged another wild swing, swept Subject 37's legs, and delivered a precisely calculated strike to the back of his neck. He went down hard, twitched once, and lay still. "He'll live. Might have a headache when he wakes up." They found the laboratory 3 floors down, through a security door that required level 5 clearance and retinal scan. 18 simply tore the door off its hinges. The lab was everything she'd feared. Rows of refrigerated storage units containing vials of glowing blue liquid, computer banks with decades of research data, and in the center of the room, observation windows looking into what could only be described as cells. In those cells, people floated in suspended animation tanks, tubes and wires connecting them to monitoring equipment. Some were adults, some were teenagers, some were children. "Oh God," Huey breathed, his camera capturing everything. "They're experimenting on kids." "Not anymore," 18 said and let her Kai flare. Energy erupted from her in a controlled pulse, not enough to hurt anyone, but more than enough to fry every piece of electronic equipment in the room. Computer banks exploded in showers of sparks, monitoring systems died with electronic shrieks, and the suspended animation tanks began emergency drain procedures. "Frenchie," Butcher shouted into his radio, "we need those charges now. Bring the whole bloody building down." "On my way, Mon Ami." Guards poured into the lab, 24 of them, all armed, all wearing body armor with Vought logos. Behind them came another soup, this one with electricity crackling around his hands. "Stand down," the electric soup commanded. "You're in violation of federal law. Vought International has authorization." "Vought has authorization to torture people," 18 interrupted, "to experiment on children, to create weapons out of unwilling subjects. These are volunteers participating in legitimate medical trials. The 8-year-old in Tank 7 is a volunteer." 18 pointed at one of the suspended animation chambers where a small form floated, covered in tubes. "Did he sign a consent form?" The electric soup's jaw tightened. "You don't understand what we're doing here. The advancements we're making could save lives." "At what cost?" 18 began walking toward him, and everyone in the room tensed. "I was made into a weapon once. Had my humanity stripped away, my choices taken, my body modified without my consent. I know exactly what you're doing here. I've lived it. Then you should understand the sacrifice required for progress. I understand that you're a monster wearing a lab coat and calling it science." The electric soup attacked, lightning bolts arcing from his hands with enough voltage to power a city block. 18 walked through it like someone walking through rain, the electricity dispersing harmlessly around her Kai barrier. She reached him, grabbed his wrist, and squeezed just hard enough that bones ground together. Non-lethal, she reminded herself as much as him, but painful. He screamed, dropped to his knees. The guards raised weapons, and Butcher's team returned fire with what looked like tranquilizer rounds. Bodies started dropping, guards falling asleep mid-charge, their weapons clattering on tile floors. "Tanks are draining," MM called out. "We've got maybe 2 minutes before those people wake up." Frenchie burst into the lab, arms full of plastic explosives and detonators. Someone called for demolition. "Oh, this is beautiful. So much expensive equipment to destroy. I could cry." "Set the charges," Butcher ordered. Huey, help those people out of the tanks. 18, you're on guard duty. Anyone else comes through that door, you stop them. The next 90 seconds were chaos. Frenchie placed charges with the care of an artist, humming something in French while he worked. and Huey carefully extracted people from tanks, laying them on the floor and checking vitals. Butcher stood watch over the unconscious guards and the whimpering electric soup. And 18 stood at the entrance, alone, facing the corridor where she could hear more reinforcements approaching. Heavy footsteps, multiple sups from the energy signatures she detected. Whatever Sage Grove's emergency protocols were, Vought was throwing everything they had at the intrusion. 5 sups emerged from the corridor, different powers, different threat levels, all of them wearing tactical gear with Vought insignias. Behind them, at least 30 more armed guards. "Last warning," 18 said calmly. "Leave now, live, or try to stop me and spend the next 6 months in a hospital." The lead soup, a woman with metal skin that gleamed under fluorescent lights, laughed. "You're outnumbered, outgunned, and out of your depth. Vought International doesn't negotiate with terrorists." "Terrorists?" 18 repeated flatly. "You're torturing children and calling us terrorists." We're advancing the human condition, creating the next stage of evolution. You're creating slaves. 18's expression went cold. I won't negotiate either. Last chance, walk away. Metal-skinned woman gestured, and all 5 subs attacked simultaneously. It was over in 11 seconds. The metal-skinned woman discovered that her invulnerability had limits when 18's punch sent her through 3 walls. A speedster learned that super speed meant nothing when your opponent could track your movement and clothesline you mid-run. A telekinetic found his powers useless against someone with energy control that could disrupt his concentration. A shapeshifter got one good hit in before 18 adapted to the pattern and delivered a knockout blow. The 5th suit, some kind of acid projector, melted his own feet to the floor when his attack splashed off 18's Kai barrier and redirected. The guards, to their credit, opened fire. 18 stood in the center of a bullet storm, let the ammunition bounce off her skin like rain off glass, and waited for them to run out of ammunition. When the shooting stopped, magazines empty, guards staring in disbelief, she spoke quietly. I'm going to leave now, with my friends, with the people you've been experimenting on, with evidence of everything Vought has done here. She let Kai energy dance around her fists, blue-white power that made the air shimmer. Anyone who tries to stop me will be stopped, permanently if necessary. Do we understand each other? 30 guards looked at 5 defeated subs, looked at the woman who'd walked through bullets without flinching, and very slowly lowered their weapons. Smart, 18 said, and returned to the lab. Charges set, Frenchie announced cheerfully. Remote detonation, we have 10-minute window after we clear the building. Everyone's out of the tanks, reported. We've got 14 people, 3 are kids. All of them are groggy but ambulatory. Huey appeared at 18's side, his camera still recording. I got everything. The experiments, the restraints, the kids in the tanks. This is going to bring Vought down. Not by itself, Butcher said grimly. But it's a start. Let's move. Those guards might have backed down, but Vaught's going to send something bigger. They made it out through a side exit, the freed test subjects stumbling between them, still disoriented from whatever drugs had kept them sedated. 18 took point again, scanning for threats, while the boys covered the rear. Behind them, Sage Grove Center stood quiet in the Pennsylvania darkness. Then Frenchie pressed the detonator, and the building erupted in sequential explosions that brought down every load-bearing wall simultaneously. The structure collapsed inward with a roar like an angry god, flames licking at the rubble, all evidence of Vaught's experiments buried under tons of concrete and steel. Beautiful, Frenchie breathed, like watching poetry. That's one lab down, said. Vaught's got 17 more we know about, probably dozens we don't. Then we hit them too, 18 said, watching the fire. One by one, until there's nothing left. Butcher clapped her on the shoulder. Welcome to the war, love. It's going to be a long one. They scattered the freed test subjects across 3 different hospitals, dropping them anonymously at emergency room entrances, with notes explaining they'd been held captive by Vought. The kids went to a safe house run by one of Butcher's contacts, a former social worker who asked no questions and had a talent for making people disappear into witness protection. By dawn, the boys were back in their Queens safe house, exhausted but alive, watching news coverage of the Sage Grove fire on a stolen laptop. Massive explosion at the Sage Grove mental health facility has authorities baffled, a news anchor reported. Vought International, which operated the facility, released a statement claiming the fire was caused by faulty electrical wiring. However, multiple sources report seeing armed individuals fleeing the scene shortly before the explosion. "They're already spinning it," Huey said bitterly, "making us look like terrorists." "Of course they are," Butcher replied. "That's how this game works. We hit them, they hit back with lawyers and PR teams. But the difference now," he gestured at 18, who sat in the corner reviewing footage on Huey's camera, "is we've got someone they can't spin. Someone who can look Homelander in his smug face and laugh." "I didn't laugh," 18 said without looking up. "I just told him he was weak." "Even better." Her phone, the burner Maeve had given her, buzzed with a text message. She opened it, read the brief message twice. "Homelander knows about Sage Grove. He's coming for you, bringing the entire 7. Be ready. M." 18 showed the message to Butcher, who grinned like a man who just won the lottery. "Perfect," he said. "Let him come. Let all of them come. About bloody time we had a proper throwdown with Vaught's golden children." "They'll tear this building apart," MM warned. "These aren't C-list sups. This is the 7. Starlight's the weakest of them, and she can shoot energy blasts that level a car." "Then we don't fight them here." 18 stood, stretching muscles that didn't tire, checking her clothing for damage. Her vest had a few bullet holes but was otherwise intact. "We pick the battlefield, somewhere public, somewhere with cameras." "You want to fight the 7 in public?" Huey's voice climbed an octave. "That's insane." "That's brilliant," Butcher corrected. "Vought can spin a secret battle. Can't spin footage of their heroes getting their RCs handed to them on live television." "Times Square," 18 said. "Tomorrow noon, maximum visibility." "How do we get them there?" Android 18 pulled out her phone, not the burner but her actual phone from home, and typed a message to the number Maeve had provided. Then she posted it publicly, on every social media platform she could access, tagged with Vaught's official accounts. "To Homelander and the 7, you want me? Come get me, Times Square, tomorrow at noon. Bring cameras, the world should see what their heroes really are. Android 18 asterisk." She hit send and looked at the boys' stunned faces. "There," she said, "battlefield chosen, now we prepare." Butcher's grin was terrifying. "I fucking love you, you beautiful psychotic disaster. This is either going to be the greatest moment in anti-soup history, or we're all going to die spectacularly. Won't be the first time I've fought impossible odds in public," 18 said, thinking of the Cell games, of fighting with everything she had while the world watched. "At least this time I'm strong enough to win." Ready to continue to next section, covering the Times Square battle where Android 18 faces the 7, systematically defeats them, and Queen Maeve makes her choice to upload evidence. This will be the major turning point where Vaught's control begins to crumble. If you're enjoying Android 18's takedown of Vaught's corrupt empire, subscribe for more epic crossover battles and what-if scenarios. Times Square at 11:45 a.m. was a controlled chaos of humanity. Tourists snapping photos, street performers competing for attention, digital billboards cycling through advertisements every 7 seconds. The massive screens displayed everything from Broadway shows to fast food commercials to, ironically, a Vought International ad featuring the 7 posed heroically against an American flag backdrop. Android 18 stood in the center of it all, arms crossed, waiting. She'd chosen her position carefully. The red glass steps near the TKTS booth, elevated enough to be visible but with clear sightlines in all directions. Around her, people flowed like water around a stone, most too absorbed in their phones to notice her. A few did double takes, recognizing her from the viral videos, but New Yorkers were practiced at pretending not to see unusual things. The boys were scattered throughout the crowd. Butcher near the Paramount building with a rifle case he'd smuggled past non-existent security. MM positioned on a rooftop with communication equipment. Frenchie somewhere in the subway tunnels with contingencies he'd refused to explain. And Huey sitting in a Starbucks with 3 different cameras aimed at the square. All positions confirmed. MM's voice crackled in her earpiece, a small miracle of Frenchie's engineering that looked like a normal earbud. We've got eyes on every angle. News crews are setting up too. They must have caught wind something's happening. Good, 18 replied quietly. The more cameras, the better. You sure about this? Butcher's voice, skeptical despite his earlier enthusiasm. Once this starts, there's no walking it back. Vaught's going to come at you with everything, legal, illegal, and everything between. They were already coming. This way, the world sees what they really are. Homelander's going to try to kill you, for real this time, no holding back. Let him try. At 11:52, the first news helicopters appeared, 3 of them, circling at a distance, their cameras trained on the square. Within minutes, there were 7. Someone had definitely tipped off the media, though 18 suspected it wasn't Vaught. At 11:57, people started pointing at the sky. They came from the north, flying in formation like fighter jets, the 7-1. Homelander in the lead, his cape streaming behind him in the wind. Queen Maeve on his right, her armor gleaming in the sunlight. A train vibrating with barely contained speed. The Deep looking uncomfortable this far from water. Black Noir silent and menacing in his tactical gear. Starlight bringing up the rear, her expression conflicted. No translucent, of course. He died weeks ago under mysterious circumstances that everyone knew the boys were responsible for but couldn't prove. The crowd began to panic. Some people ran, others pulled out phones. Most froze in that uniquely human response to witnessing something impossible. Police sirens wailed in the distance, but what were cops supposed to do about flying superhumans? Homelander landed 15 feet from 18, his boots touching down with theatrical precision. The rest of the 7 spread out around him, forming a semicircle that cut off apparent escape routes. You really did it, Homelander said, his voice carrying across the square with unnatural clarity. Someone had given him a microphone, or maybe his powers included voice amplification. Posted a public challenge like some kind of movie villain. Did you think about the collateral damage? All these innocent people. 18 looked at the crowd, at the families scrambling to leave, at the tourists recording everything on their phones. I thought about them a lot. That's why I chose public. You won't risk your reputation by murdering civilians. You need them to love you. Whereas you don't care what they think. I care what's true. She gestured at the massive screens above them, where news networks had already cut to live coverage. And the truth is, you're not a hero, you're a product. A weapon Vought created to sell merchandise and control narratives. Homelander's smile never wavered, but his eyes betrayed his rage. Big words from someone who attacked a mental health facility, destroyed millions in medical research, and kidnapped patients undergoing treatment. Is that what Vaught's calling it? 18's voice remained calm, conversational. A mental health facility, not an experimental lab where you torture unwilling subjects, where you inject children with an untested serum that has a 73% mortality rate. The news helicopters circled closer, their cameras capturing everything. You have no proof of these accusations, Homelander said, but there was a crack in his composure now. Just conspiracy theories from terrorists who... Huey, 18 said into her earpiece. Now. On every screen in Times Square, every billboard, every digital display, every advertising panel, the footage changed. No longer commercials or news anchors, but the raw video Huey had captured at Sage Grove. Children in suspended animation tanks. Adults restrained and screaming. Test subjects with grotesque mutations begging for help. Vought scientists discussing acceptable losses and necessary sacrifices. The crowd, which had been fleeing, stopped, stared, watched as their heroes' corporate owners were exposed as monsters. "This is fake," Homelander shouted, his voice cracking with barely controlled fury. "Deepfake technology, edited footage, lies from." "It's not fake," Starlight said quietly, and everyone turned to look at her. "I've seen the files, I've read the reports. Everything she's saying, it's true." Starlight, shut up. No. Starlight stepped away from the Seven's formation, positioning herself between them and 18. "I'm done. I'm done lying for Vought, done pretending you're something you're not. These people deserve the truth." "You're having a breakdown," Queen Maeve said quickly, her voice urgent with warning. "The stress of being a hero, it's too much. We need to get you somewhere safe." "I'm not crazy, Maeve, and neither are you. We both know what Vought does, what they've done. How many times have we looked away, made excuses?" Starlight's eyes began to glow with golden energy. "I'm not looking away anymore." The Deep shifted uncomfortably. "This is bad. This is really bad. Maybe we should." "We should end this," Homelander interrupted, his voice gone flat and cold. "Right now." He moved faster than he had during their previous encounters, not holding back any more genuine killing intent behind the strike. His fist came at 18's face with enough force to shatter concrete, to pulverize bone, to end fights before they could begin. She caught it. Not deflected, not dodged. Just caught his fist in her palm and held it there, while Homelander's expression cycled through disbelief, rage, and something that might have been fear. "You tried this already," 18 said. "Didn't work then, won't work now." A-Train blurred into motion, using his super speed to attack from behind. A cowardly tactic, but effective if your opponent was human. 18's free hand shot out without looking, grabbed A-Train by the throat mid-run, and the speedster's momentum translated into a spectacular crash that sent him tumbling through a S-barrow. He didn't get up. "One down," 18 said conversationally. The Deep attacked next, which was brave but stupid considering they were nowhere near water. His enhanced strength let him lift cars, but 18 had sparred with people who could lift planets. She sidestepped his charge, delivered a measured strike to his solar plexus, and he folded like a lawn chair. "Two down." Black Noir came at her silently, efficiently, with military precision and decades of combat experience. He was good, better than the others, his movements economical and deadly. His knife found gaps in human anatomy with surgical accuracy. 18 let him stab her. The blade, probably some Vought-enhanced material, shattered against her skin like glass against steel. Black Noir stared at the broken weapon, then at her, then tried to retreat. She grabbed his shoulder, spun him around, and delivered a palm strike that sent him crashing into a subway entrance. He hit the stairs hard enough to crack concrete, then lay still. 3 down. All of this had taken maybe 12 seconds. Homelander wrenched his fist free from her grip, his knuckles actually bruised from the encounter. He floated backward, heat vision already charging in his eyes. "You think you've won," he snarled. "You think embarrassing me on television changes anything? I'm Homelander. I'm America's hero. I can do whatever I want." "There it is," 18 said, loud enough for every camera to hear. "The real you, not the corporate spokesman, not the patriotic symbol. Just a spoiled child with powers he didn't earn, angry because someone finally said no." Homelander's heat vision activated. Full power, both eyes, enough thermal energy to cut through steel. The beam struck 18's center mass and she just stood there. Let the attack splash across her like water against a dam, the excess energy dissipating harmlessly into the air. When Homelander finally stopped, either because he ran out of power or because he realized it wasn't working, 18's clothes were smoking slightly, but she was completely unharmed. "My turn," she said. She moved, and Homelander tried to fly away. Tried to escape using the speed that had let him circle the globe, that made him effectively untouchable by any human weapon. 18 was faster. She caught him 30 feet up, grabbed his cape, and yanked him back down to earth hard enough that he cratered the pavement. Before he could recover, she was on him, knee on his chest, hand around his throat. Not squeezing, just holding, just demonstrating that she could. "I've fought gods," she said quietly for his ears only. "Beings that could destroy galaxies with a thought. Universe-level threats that made your powers look like parlor tricks. You're not even close to the strongest person I've met. You're not even in the top 1,000. "I'll kill you," Homelander whispered, tears actually forming in his eyes, rage or humiliation, impossible to tell. "I'll find everyone you love and I'll kill them. I'll make you watch. I'll..." "No, you won't." 18's expression stayed neutral, but her voice carried absolute certainty. "Because if you hurt anyone because of me, I'll come back. And next time I won't be gentle. I won't leave you alive to threaten people. I'll end you so completely that Vought won't even find enough DNA to clone." She released him, stood, and stepped back. Homelander lay there in his crater, costume torn, blood trickling from his nose. The first time in his life he'd ever actually bled from combat. Around them, Times Square had gone completely silent except for the whir of news helicopters and the click of 1,000 cameras. "It's over," 18 announced, addressing the cameras rather than the 7. "Whatever protection Vought thought they had, whatever immunity they bought with lobbying and PR, it's done. The world knows what they are, what they've done. And if they try to cover this up, if they try to silence witnesses or bury evidence..." She let Chi energy flare around her, blue-white power that made the air shimmer. "I'll come back." Queen Maeve stepped forward slowly, hands raised in a gesture of peace. "What do you want? For all this to end, what do you actually want?" "For Vought to stop experimenting on children. For Compound V production to be regulated by someone other than the company that profits from it. For every person they've hurt, every family they've destroyed, every victim they've buried, justice. Real justice, not the kind you can buy with settlements and NDAs. That's asking for the complete dissolution of the company." "Then that's what I'm asking for." Maeve looked at the cameras, at the footage still playing on every screen, evidence that couldn't be denied or explained away. At Homelander lying defeated in his crater, at the 7 scattered and broken, at the crowd watching with expressions that ranged from horror to vindication. She pulled out her phone, opened a secure folder and began uploading files. "What are you doing?" Homelander struggled to sit up, his voice raw. "Maeve, don't." "Sending everything to every major news outlet, every government agency, Every independent journalist I can find. Maeve's fingers moved quickly across the screen. All of it. The experiments, the cover-ups, the murders we committed on Vaught's orders. Stan Edgar's private files that I've been collecting for 5 years, waiting for the right moment. They'll destroy you, Homelander said, almost pleading now. Vought will bury you. You'll lose everything. I already lost everything that mattered. Maeve hit send, and somewhere in the cloud, years of carefully documented evidence began propagating across servers that Vought couldn't control or delete. I lost it the first time I looked away when you killed someone innocent. The first time I stayed silent when I should have spoken. Every day I wore this costume and pretended to be a hero while helping monsters. She looked at 18, something like gratitude in her eyes. Thank you for being brave enough to do what I couldn't. You did it, 18 replied. I just made it possible. Sirens were getting closer now. Not just police, but emergency services, federal vehicles, the kind of response that suggested someone very high up had decided this situation needed containment. On the screens above, news anchors were already discussing the footage, experts being brought in to verify its authenticity. Politicians issuing statements. The world was changing, right here, right now. In Times Square on a Tuesday afternoon, the illusion of invulnerable heroes and benevolent corporations was shattering in real time. Homelander finally climbed out of his crater, costume ruined, blood on his face, his carefully maintained image destroyed. He looked at the cameras, at the crowd, at his defeated team. This isn't over, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. Vought has resources you can't imagine. Lawyers, politicians, entire governments in their pocket. You think one video changes anything? One video, Huey's voice came through 18's earpiece, audible excitement despite the danger. Dude, it's trending on every platform. 50 million views in 10 minutes. People are sharing it everywhere. Vaught's Twitter is getting death threats. Their stock price just dropped 40%. 18 smiled slightly. Your company's burning, Homelander. Your reputation's destroyed. And everyone knows you're not invincible anymore. That changes everything. Federal vehicles began pulling into the square. FBI, Homeland Security, even a military transport. Men in suits emerged, already shouting orders, trying to establish control of a situation that had spun far beyond anyone's ability to manage. We need to go, Butcher said in her earpiece. Every alphabet agency in America is descending on your position. Time to disappear. What about the 7? 18 asked quietly, watching as emergency personnel began checking on A-Train and the Deep. Let the feds deal with them. We got what we came for, evidence, exposure, and you beat the shit out of America's heroes on live television. That's a successful operation in my book. 18 looked at Homelander one last time. Remember what I said. Hurt anyone because of this and I come back. Tell your bosses. Tell everyone at Vought. This is your only warning. Then she launched herself into the air, leaving Times Square and its chaos behind. Behind her, she heard Homelander scream, a sound of pure, impotent rage that probably shattered windows for blocks. Let him scream. Let him rage. For the first time in his life, the world had seen him lose, had seen him bleed, had seen him afraid. And that fear, that vulnerability, was more dangerous to Vought than any amount of physical damage 18 could have inflicted. She flew low over the city, navigating by Frenchie's directions through her earpiece, finally landing in a parking garage in Queens where the boys had a van waiting. They peeled out immediately, Frenchie behind the wheel, taking side streets and back alleys with the practiced ease of people who'd been fleeing authorities for years. That, Butcher said from the passenger seat, turning to look at 18 with something like awe, was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. You beat the shit out of the Seven in the middle of Times Square, on live television, with every news agency in the world watching. Did we win? Huey asked quietly. Is it over? No, 18 said, watching the city pass outside the window. This was just the opening move. Vaught's wounded, but wounded animals are dangerous. They'll regroup, come back harder, dirtier. Let them, said grimly. We've got evidence they can't deny, witnesses they can't silence, and footage they can't delete. For the first time, we've got momentum. And we've got her, Butcher added, gesturing at 18. Someone who can actually go toe-to-toe with their strongest assets and win. That's the game changer. That's how we actually pull this off. 18's phone, the burner from Maeve, buzzed. She checked it, read the message. Thank you, whatever happens next, thank you for giving me the courage to do the right thing. The files are out, can't take them back now. Vaught's lawyers are already calling. This is going to get ugly. M. She typed a reply, stay safe. You did the right thing. If you need help, call. The van merged onto a highway, heading north toward a safe house in the Catskills that Butcher swore was secure. Behind them, New York City erupted into chaos. Vaught's stock continuing to plummet, emergency sessions of Congress being called. Every news network running 24/7 coverage of the Times Square incident. What happens when Homelander comes for revenge? Huey asked, voicing the question everyone was thinking. When he stops caring about his image and just tries to kill everyone involved. Then I stop him, 18 said simply, permanently if necessary. You'd kill him. If he forces my hand, if he threatens innocent people, if he becomes a danger that can't be contained any other way. 18 met Huey's gaze steadily. Yes, I've killed before when there was no other choice. I'm not proud of it, but I won't let people die because I was too squeamish to do what was necessary. The van fell silent, everyone processing that declaration. Finally, Butcher laughed, a harsh, genuine sound. You know what? I think we might actually pull this off. Might actually bring down Vought, expose Compound V, maybe even make the world a little bit less shit. Don't get cocky, warned. We just declared war on the most powerful corporation in America. They've got resources we can barely imagine. Yeah, but we've got something they don't. Butcher looked at 18 again. We've got someone who can punch their gods in the face and make them bleed. Android 18 looked out at the passing landscape, thinking of home, of Krillin making breakfast while Marin demanded pancakes, of lazy Sunday mornings and family dinners, and the peaceful life she'd built after years of being someone else's weapon. She wanted to go home. But first, she had to finish this, had to make sure no more children were turned into experiments, had to ensure that Vought couldn't just rebuild and restart once attention moved elsewhere. How long until we reach the safe house? She asked. 2 hours, Frenchie replied. Why? Because in 2 hours I want a complete list of every Vought facility, every laboratory, every black site they operate. We're going to hit them all, systematically, one by one, until there's nothing left. Butcher's grin was feral. Now you're talking my language. The van continued north, carrying 5 fugitives and 1 interdimensional warrior toward an uncertain future. Behind them, the world they'd just changed continued to burn. And somewhere in Vought Tower, in a penthouse suite overlooking the city, Homelander stood at the window, watching news coverage of his defeat play on repeat, and began planning his revenge. Ready to continue to the next section covering Vaught's corporate response, Stan Edgar's manipulation attempts, and the systematic destruction of Vaught's laboratory network. This section will also feature Homelander's psychological breakdown and his decision to start hunting his own creators. Enjoying the story? Subscribe to see how Android 18 dismantles Vaught's empire piece by piece, and what happens when corporate evil meets unstoppable force. Stan Edgar did not panic. In his 53 years, 30 of them spent climbing Vought International's corporate ladder. He'd faced congressional investigations, shareholder revolts, PR disasters that would have sunk lesser companies, and 7 different attempts by the Seven to assert independence. He'd weathered them all with the calm calculation of a man who understood that power wasn't about strength or popularity. It was about control. But as he sat in his executive office 70 floors above New York City, watching their stock price crater in real time, while his phone lit up with calls from board members, senators, and increasingly panicked PR directors, Stan Edgar came as close to panic as he'd ever been. "How bad?" he asked Ashley Barrett, who stood across from his desk looking like she'd aged 10 years in the past 3 hours. Her perfectly maintained corporate composure had cracked, revealing the terrified woman underneath. "Bad doesn't begin to cover it, Mr. Edgar." Ashley's voice shook slightly. "We've lost 62% of our market value. 17 major advertising partners have pulled contracts. The FDA is launching an investigation into Compound V. The Justice Department just announced a task force to investigate allegations of human experimentation. And Congress," she swallowed hard, "Congress is calling for emergency hearings." The footage, verified authentic by every independent analyst who's examined it. We tried claiming deepfake, but too many people have corroborating evidence now. Queen Maeve's files are everywhere. We can't scrub them fast enough. Every deletion just makes it spread faster. Stan Edgar leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled, thinking. The situation was dire but not unsalvageable. Companies had survived worse. The tobacco industry had admitted to causing cancer and still existed. Big Pharma had created the opioid crisis and remained profitable. Vought had survived revelations before. But they'd never faced someone like Android 18. "Tell me about her," he said quietly. "Everything we know." Ashley pulled out a tablet, her hand still shaking slightly as she scrolled through information. Android 18, that's what she's calling herself. No legal name on record, no social security number, no digital footprint before the rally. Our facial recognition systems can't match her to any database. It's like she didn't exist before last week. "Because she didn't," a new voice said from the doorway. "Not in this world anyway." Stan turned to see Madeline Stillwell enter, former senior vice president of Hero Management, officially retired after the Compound V baby scandal, unofficially still on retainer for situations exactly like this. She looked immaculate as always, her power suit and heels suggesting someone who'd never lost control of anything. "Madeline," Stan acknowledged, "I assume you have insights." "I've been reviewing the footage obsessively since the Times Square incident." Madeline crossed to his desk, placed her own tablet down showing freeze frames of 18's fights. "Watch how she moves, the energy she generates around her hands. That's not Compound V. Our scientists say it's unlike any power signature they've encountered. And her statement about being from another dimension. Our technical people think she might be telling the truth." "Dimensional travel is science fiction," Ashley protested weakly. So were flying men and laser vision before we created them. Madeline zoomed in on one image, 18 catching Homelander's punch, her expression completely calm. She's not bluffing about her power level. She took down 4 members of the Seven in under 20 seconds, made Homelander bleed, which we've spent years claiming was impossible, and she did it while clearly holding back. Stan Edgar studied the images, his mind already calculating vectors and possibilities. So we can't beat her physically, that's established. What about legally, financially, socially? Legal's tricky, she doesn't exist in our system. Can't sue someone with no identity. Financially, she doesn't seem to care about money, at least not enough to be bribed. Socially, Madeline pulled up more footage, this time the crowd's reaction in Times Square. She's already a folk hero to half the country. The other half is terrified, which is almost worse. Fear makes people unpredictable. Then we make her the villain, Stan said decisively. Domestic terrorist, foreign agent, mentally unstable individual with dangerous powers. We control enough media outlets to craft that narrative. We tried that. Ashley gestured helplessly at her tablet. It's not sticking. People watched her fight the Seven, watched Homelander try to kill her first, watched her protect civilians while our heroes destroyed property. The narrative isn't landing because too many people saw what really happened. Stan's jaw tightened fractionally, the only outward sign of frustration he'd allow himself. Then we find her pressure points. Everyone has pressure points. Family, friends, loved ones. We find what she cares about and we apply leverage. She claims to be from another dimension, Madeline reminded him. If that's true, everyone she cares about is unreachable. She's got nothing here to lose. Then we give her something to lose. Stan stood, walking to his floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Somewhere down there, Android 18 was planning her next move. She's working with Butcher and his crew of vigilantes. They're humans, vulnerable, traceable. We find them, we find her. Sir, Ashley said carefully, Homelander already tried that. He went after someone she'd had a single conversation with. She responded by publicly humiliating him. If we escalate. If we don't escalate, Vought ceases to exist. Stan's voice went cold. We're not dealing with market fluctuations or PR problems anymore. We're dealing with an existential threat to the entire company. She's declared war on us, on Compound V, on everything we've built, and she has the power to actually win. His phone rang, private line, the one only a handful of people had access to. He picked up, listened for 30 seconds without speaking, then hung up. That was the Pentagon, he said quietly. They want a meeting. They want to know if Android 18 represents a national security threat that requires military intervention. Jesus Christ, Ashley breathed. They want to try to kill her. They want to know if it's even possible. Stan returned to his desk, began pulling up classified files that technically he shouldn't have access to, but did anyway because that was how power worked. And they want to know if Vought has any weapons capable of dealing with her if she becomes hostile to the US government. Do we? Madeline asked. Stan looked at them both, weighing how much to reveal. We have contingencies, black budget projects that never made it to the Seven, enhanced individuals who were too unstable or too powerful for public deployment. Weapons we've been developing since the Cold War for scenarios exactly like this. You want to deploy them against her. I want options. Stan pulled up schematics for something called Project Sentinel, massive automated defense systems designed to counter superpowered threats. If she continues attacking our facilities, we respond proportionally. If she escalates, we escalate. And if she forces us to choose between Vaught's survival and her life. He met their gazes steadily. We choose Vaught. 300 miles away, in a safe house that smelled like decades-old pine and stale beer, the boys gathered around a stolen laptop, reviewing their target list. 18 facilities, said, highlighting locations on a map, spread across 15 states. Some are official, listed as pharmaceutical research centers or medical supply warehouses. Others are completely off books, black sites that don't legally exist. How do we know about them? Huey asked. Maeve's files included a complete inventory of Vaught's operations. Butcher grinned savagely. Every dirty secret, every hidden lab, every place they've been cooking up their super soldier serum. She gave us the whole bloody shopping list. Android 18 studied the map, calculating travel times and tactical approaches. We can't hit them all at once, too spread out. We'll have to prioritize. Prioritize by what metric? Frenchie asked, cleaning a disassembled rifle with the care of someone performing surgery. Maximum damage, highest civilian risk, most dramatic explosion. By which ones are still actively experimenting on people? 18's voice went flat. The others we can destroy later, but anywhere they've got test subjects right now, those are priority one. Pulled up additional information. According to Maeve's files, 5 facilities are currently running active trials, 2 with adults who technically consented, though consent under threat of prison time is questionable. 3 with, he paused, jaw tightening. 3 with minors, ages ranging from 6 to 15. The room went silent, except for the mechanical clicking of Frenchie's rifle reassembly. Those 3, 18 said. We hit those 3 first, tonight if possible. Tonight's impossible, they're too far apart. But we could hit 1 tonight, 2 tomorrow, be done by week's end. Butcher leaned over the map. Question is whether Vaught's going to sit still while we dismantle their empire piece by piece. They won't. 18 stood, began packing. Stan Edgar's not stupid. He knows he can't beat me physically, so he'll try other methods. Legal pressure, media manipulation, maybe try to leverage people I care about. Do you care about us? Huey asked quietly. 18 stopped packing, considered the question seriously. I've known you for 3 days, but you're fighting for something good, something that matters, and you're willing to risk everything to do it. So yes, I care enough that if Vought comes after you, I'll respond. That's what Edgar's counting on, warned. He'll use us as bait, draw you out, try to separate you from us, hit you with something while you're distracted. Then we don't separate, we work as a unit. 18 looked at each of them in turn. Butcher, your tactical command. Intelligence and logistics. Frenchie, explosives and entry. Huey, documentation. I'm the hammer. We move together, we fight together, and nobody gets left behind. Butcher raised an eyebrow. You're taking orders from humans now. Thought you were an interdimensional superweapon. I'm a martial artist who knows that teamwork beats solo operations every time. 18 pulled up the first target facility, a nondescript building in rural Virginia that satellite photos showed surrounded by unusual security for a medical research center. I've been part of a team before. It works, so we do this right. Touching, Butcher said, but he was grinning. All right then, team. Let's plan a robbery, or technically a rescue mission, or terrorism depending on who you ask. They spent the next 4 hours planning. Entry points, security systems, evacuation routes, contingencies for if Vought sent reinforcements. Hacked Vaught's security protocols using credentials from Maeve's files, giving them real-time access to guard rotations and camera placements. Frenchie prepared enough plastic explosives to level a building, but with enough precision to avoid killing anyone not actively trying to kill them. At 8 p.m., Huey's phone rang. Unknown number. He answered on speaker. "Mr. Campbell," a smooth, professional voice said. "Stan Edgar. I hope I'm not interrupting anything important." Everyone froze. Butcher gestured frantically for Huey to keep him talking, already pulling out equipment to trace the call. "How did you get this number?" Huey asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "Mr. Campbell, Vought International employs some of the world's best intelligence analysts. Your current phone has been active for approximately 16 hours. Finding it was trivial." A pause. "I'm calling to offer you a deal." "Not interested in anything Vaught's selling. Not even if it includes immunity from prosecution. Full pardons for you and your associates. A substantial financial settlement to compensate for Robin's tragic death." Huey's hands clenched on the phone hard enough that plastic creaked. "You don't get to say her name." "I'm offering you a way out, Mr. Campbell. A clean exit from this war you cannot win. Vought has resources you cannot imagine. Legal, financial, political, we can make you all disappear. Into prison or into comfortable retirement. Your choice. What do you want?" "Android 18. Edgar's voice remained perfectly calm, like he was discussing stock options. "She's the variable in this equation, the unpredictable element. Remove her from play, and we can all return to civilized resolution of our differences. You want us to betray her, to hand over the only person who can actually stop you. I want you to recognize reality. She's not from this world. She has no stake in its future. Once she finds a way home, and she'll leave. And when she does, Vought will still be here. We'll still have the Seven, our political connections, our resources. And you'll be alone again, vulnerable again. Your brief alliance with her will have accomplished nothing except making you even more wanted than before." Butcher had the trace running now, his screen showing the call routing through 17 different proxy servers across 4 continents. Untraceable, which meant Edgar had prepared this carefully. "Not interested," Huey said firmly. "We're seeing this through." "Then you're choosing death, Mr. Campbell, because that's where this path leads. Android 18 might be invulnerable, but you're not. None of your friends are. And Homelander is currently having what my psychological team describes as a complete psychotic break. He wants revenge. He wants blood. And I can only restrain him for so long." "Is that a threat?" "It's a fact." Edgar's tone didn't change. "I'm offering you one chance to step back from the precipice. Take the deal. Disappear. Live. Or stay the course and discover what happens when the world's most powerful corporation decides you're too dangerous to be left alive. We'll take our chances." Edgar sighed, and for the first time he sounded almost disappointed. "Very well. I tried. Remember that when things get worse. I offered you an exit." The line went dead. "That was a warning," said quietly. "He's telling us he's done playing nice." "He was never playing nice," Butcher countered. "He was buying time while he mobilized his real assets. Whatever Vaught's planning, it's coming soon." Android 18's phone buzzed, the burner from Maeve. She checked it, her expression darkening. "Homelander just left Vought Tower. Didn't file a flight plan. Didn't tell anyone where he's going. Edgar's lost control of him. Be careful. M." She showed the message to the others. "Brilliant," Butcher muttered. "So now we've got an omnipotent psychopath with nothing to lose hunting us, while his corporate masters prepare God knows what kind of counterattack. Changes nothing, 18 said, standing. We still have kids to rescue. Tonight's operation proceeds as planned. If Homelander shows up, I'll handle him. And if he doesn't come for you, Huey asked. What if he goes after civilians, people who helped us, Gecko and his family? 18 hadn't considered that. In her world, villains generally attacked the strongest opponents first. It was a matter of pride, of proving dominance. But Homelander wasn't a warrior. He was a bully, and bullies attacked whoever they could hurt, not whoever they should fight. She said quickly. Contact everyone who's helped us. Gecko, Maria at the diner, anyone who might be on Homelander's radar. Tell them to get out of the city. Give them cash, help them disappear. Already on it, replied, his phone already out. Been making calls since Times Square. Anyone connected to us is going underground. Then we move now, before Vought can regroup, before Homelander finds a target. 18 headed for the door. Virginia facility first. Frenchie, how long to get there? With normal traffic, 5 hours. With me driving and Butcher's fake police lights, 3. Make it 2. They piled into the van, a different one this time, freshly stolen with plates that changed electronically every 30 minutes courtesy of Frenchie's modifications. The highway stretched out before them, dark and empty, carrying them toward their next target. Behind them in New York City, Homelander floated above the skyline, his enhanced vision scanning the streets below, looking for targets, looking for anyone connected to the woman who'd embarrassed him, looking for ways to make her hurt. He spotted Gecko's building. Empty, the family had fled hours ago. He found Maria's diner, closed, with a note taped to the door saying she'd gone to visit family in Florida. Every person who'd helped Android 18 had vanished, protected by the boys' network and their own survival instincts. Homelander screamed again, that same impotent rage, and started flying south. If he couldn't find her allies, he'd find her facilities, the places she'd be targeting next, and he'd be waiting. At Vought Tower, Stan Edgar watched satellite tracking of Homelander's flight path and made a call to the Pentagon. This is Edgar, authorization code Delta 77 Black. I'm requesting immediate activation of Project Sentinel. Yes, I understand the risks. Yes, I understand the cost. And yes, I'm authorizing lethal force if necessary. He hung up and looked at the city below, at the empire he'd built over 3 decades, now under siege from a woman who'd been here less than a week. Escalation it is, he said to the empty office. Let's see how your power holds up against what we've been developing for 30 years. In Virginia, in a facility disguised as a medical research center, 7 children slept in restraints, IV lines running from their arms to machines monitoring their forced exposure to experimental compound V variants. They didn't know that rescue was coming. They didn't know that war was coming with it. They just slept, trapped in nightmares of laboratories and pain, waiting for someone, anyone, to save them. Android 18 was 3 hours away. And for Vought International, 3 hours would prove to be 2 hours and 59 minutes too long. Ready to continue to the next section covering the Virginia facility rescue, the first deployment of Vaught's black budget weapons, and Homelander's confrontation with 18 that ends with him beginning to hunt Vaught's own scientists. This will be the major escalation point, where the conflict becomes truly existential for the company.
The war between Android 18 and Vought escalates. Subscribe to see what happens when corporate weapons meet unstoppable force, and Homelander's sanity finally breaks. The Virginia facility looked even less remarkable up close than it had in satellite photos. A three-story building of concrete and tinted glass, surrounded by chain-link fence and a parking lot with exactly 12 vehicles. A sign near the entrance read, "Prometheus Medical Research, authorized personnel only." Android 18 hovered 200 feet above it, scanning with senses that could detect a heartbeat through solid walls. 7 small signatures on the 3rd floor, their heart rates elevated even in sleep. Children. Another 23 signatures scattered throughout the building. Guards, scientists, administrators working the night shift. And something else. Something that pinged against her Kai senses with an artificial resonance that felt wrong. She said into her earpiece, "You seeing what I'm seeing?" "If you mean the massive energy signature in the basement that's not on any of Maeve's blueprints, then yes." M's voice was tense. "That's new. That's very new. And it's drawing enough power to run a small city." "Vaught's been busy," Butcher said from the van, parked a mile away with a clear view via Frenchie's drone cameras. "Probably knew we'd come after this place first. Set a trap." "Or a deterrent," Frenchie added. "Something big enough to make even an interdimensional superwoman think twice." 18 descended slowly, landing in the parking lot with barely a sound. The security cameras tracked her movement. No point in stealth when they already knew she was coming. "Huey, you're staying in the van," she said firmly. "If this goes wrong, you document what happens and get the footage out. Understood?" "But I'm supposed to." "You're supposed to make sure the truth gets out even if we don't." 18's voice softened slightly. "That's the most important job. Can you do it?" A pause then. "Yeah, I can do it." "Good." Butcher, Frenchie, You 3 circle around to the service entrance. I'll go in the front, draw their attention. Once the shooting starts, you get to the 3rd floor and extract those kids. Non-lethal if possible, but if it's you or them, you make the right choice. "What about that thing in the basement?" asked. "I'll handle it." 18 walked toward the main entrance, her boots crunching on gravel. The doors were reinforced steel with biometric locks, but she simply placed her palm against them and let Kai energy flow through the locking mechanism. Metal groaned, circuits fried, and the doors swung open. The lobby was empty except for a single man sitting behind a reception desk. Mid-50s, gray hair, wearing a lab coat over business casual attire. He looked up from a tablet as she entered, and his expression was more resigned than surprised. "Android 18, I presume," he said calmly. "I'm Dr. Morris Brennan, director of this facility. I've been instructed to inform you that this building is under the protection of Vought International and the United States Department of Defense. Any aggressive action will be considered an attack on a federal facility and met with appropriate force." "You're experimenting on children," 18 said, walking toward the desk. "Nothing you do here is legal or legitimate." "Actually, everything we do here has been approved by the FDA under emergency authorization protocols." Brennan pulled up documents on his tablet. Every subject signed consent forms, or in the case of minors, their legal guardians provided consent on their behalf. Legal guardians who were paid how much? Brennan's jaw tightened. "The compensation package for families participating in our research is generous but completely legal. We're developing treatments for genetic disorders, therapies that could save millions of lives. You're creating weapons, enhanced soldiers, subs who will work for Vought because they've been conditioned since childhood to see the company as saviors." 18 stopped in front of the desk. "I've heard this speech before. Different world, same justifications. It didn't work then either." "Then I'm afraid we're at an impasse." Brennan pressed a button under his desk. "Security Protocol Omega, activate Project Sentinel." The building shuddered. From somewhere deep below, machinery activated with a sound like waking thunder. The energy signature 18 had detected earlier flared to life, and she realized it wasn't a weapon, it was a power source, feeding something massive. The floor in the center of the lobby split apart with grinding mechanical precision, sections sliding away to reveal a shaft leading down into darkness. And from that darkness, something rose. It was humanoid, roughly, 15 feet tall, constructed from some kind of dark metal that absorbed light rather than reflecting it. Its design was industrial, brutal. No attempt at aesthetics, just efficient killing geometry. Red optical sensors activated across its head unit, scanning her with the same artificial intelligence Bulma's early security robots had used, but decades more advanced. Project Sentinel Unit 1, displayed on a panel across its chest. "Impressive," 18 said, studying the machine. "How long has Vought been building these?" "Since 1985, Brennan replied, backing away toward an emergency exit. "We've had 40 years to prepare for situations exactly like this. You're powerful, Android 18, perhaps the most powerful being on this Earth, but you're not invincible, and Sentinel was designed specifically to counter superpowered threats." The machine took a step forward, and the floor cracked under its weight. Its arms ended in what looked like plasma cannons, already beginning to charge with blue-white energy. "Last chance to surrender," Brennan said. "Sentinel is authorized to use lethal force. You can't win this fight." 18 dropped into a fighting stance, Kai beginning to flow around her fists. "Your designers never fought anyone who could destroy planets. Let's see how your robot does against someone who sparred with gods." Sentinel fired. The plasma blast hit her center mass with enough force to vaporize a tank. 18 slid backward 3 feet from the impact, her boots carving trenches in the lobby floor. But when the energy dissipated, she was completely unharmed. "That was your warning shot?" she asked. "I've taken worse from Krillin during warm-ups." She moved, crossing the distance between them faster than Sentinel's targeting systems could track, and delivered a straight punch to its center mass. Metal screamed. The impact sent Sentinel crashing backward through the reception desk, through the wall behind it, into what looked like a medical examination room. Equipment shattered, the floor buckled, and Sentinel's optical sensors flickered briefly before recalibrating. It rose with mechanical precision, apparently undamaged, and fired again, this time with both plasma cannons simultaneously. 18 caught the blasts with her hands, Kai barriers dispersing the energy harmlessly. "Okay, I'll admit you're tougher than expected, but still not tough enough." Sentinel's tactical AI adapted, switching from energy weapons to physical combat. It charged, moving with surprising speed for something that size, and engaged her in hand-to-hand. To 18's genuine surprise, it was competent. Not skilled like a martial artist, but efficient like a soldier. No wasted movement, every strike calculated for maximum damage to vital points. Its designers had clearly studied how to fight enhanced humans. They just never studied anyone who trained with beings who could destroy galaxies. 18 blocked a strike aimed at her throat, redirected a kick that would have shattered concrete, and ducked under a backhand that cratered the wall behind her. Then she stopped defending and attacked. Her strikes were measured, controlled. She didn't want to destroy the building while the boys were rescuing the children upstairs. But each hit landed with enough force to dent Sentinel's armor, to crack its optical sensors, to damage the systems underneath. Sentinel adapted again, deploying what looked like energy restraints, bands of crackling blue electricity that wrapped around her arms and torso, attempting to bind her in place. "Cute," 18 said and flexed. Her Kai flared, overwhelming the restraint's containment field, and they shattered into sparks and broken circuits. She grabbed Sentinel by one arm, pivoted, and threw it through the ceiling. The machine crashed through 2 floors, emerging on the roof in a shower of concrete and twisted rebar. 18 followed, launching herself upward, ready to finish this. But Sentinel wasn't alone anymore. 4 more units had activated, emerging from hidden bays across the facility. UNITS 2 through 5, all identical to the first, all moving with that same efficient, deadly precision. "Of course there's more," 18 muttered. "There's always more." All 5 sentinels attacked simultaneously. Inside the building, the boys had reached the 3rd floor via the service stairs, encountering surprisingly light resistance. A few guards, easily subdued with tranquilizer darts, a couple of scientists who fled rather than fight. It was almost too easy. "I don't like this," said quietly, checking corners with his rifle. "Where's all the security Maeve's files mentioned?" "Probably dealing with 18 and her robot friends," Butcher replied. "You hear that?" He pointed at the ceiling, where sounds of combat, metal shrieking, explosions, the impact of bodies hitting concrete, echoed through the structure. Sounds like a proper scrap. They found the children in a secure ward at the end of the hallway. 7 beds, 7 small bodies restrained with padded cuffs, IV lines running from their arms to monitoring equipment that beeped softly in the dim lighting. The kids ranged from maybe 6 to 15, all of them unconscious, all of them showing signs of compound V enhancement, unusual skin tones, nascent powers manifesting as auras or physical mutations. "Jesus Christ," Frenchie breathed, immediately moving to disconnect the IV lines. "They are so small. These are Bobby's and Vought." He couldn't finish the sentence. "We get them out first, feel feelings later," said, though his jaw was tight with barely controlled rage. He began carefully removing restraints, checking vital signs. "They're all stable, sedated but not in immediate danger. We can move them." "Van's at the service entrance," Butcher confirmed via radio. "Huey, you copy? We're bringing out 7 packages." "Copy," Huey's voice crackled back. "But guys, you need to see this. 18's fighting 5 of those robot things on the roof. It's incredible. She's holding her own, but they're adapting to her fighting style." Above them, something exploded with enough force to make the entire building shake. Dust rained from the ceiling, and one of the children stirred, making a small sound of distress. "Easy, kid," said gently, scooping up the youngest, a girl maybe 7 years old with skin that shimmered like mother of pearl. "You're safe now. We're getting you out." They worked quickly, each of the boys carrying 2 children except for Butcher, who took the oldest, a teenage boy whose arms crackled with residual electricity even in his sedated state. They moved back toward the stairs, trying to avoid attracting attention. They made it to the 2nd floor before the lights went red and alarms began blaring. "Security alert," a mechanical voice announced over hidden speakers. "Unauthorized removal of test subjects. Lockdown protocol initiated. All personnel report to stations." Steel doors slammed down across exits, trapping them in a corridor that suddenly felt much smaller. From both directions, guards appeared, not regular security but tactical teams in full combat gear, weapons raised. "Set the children down," the team leader ordered. "Step away from them slowly. You are in violation of federal law." Butcher shot him. Not lethally. The tranquilizer dart caught the man in the neck, dropping him in 3 seconds, but it signaled that negotiation was over. The firefight was brief and chaotic. The boys had prepared for this scenario, had trained for extractions under fire, but they were still civilians with stolen weapons facing professional soldiers. Laid down covering fire while Frenchie threw smoke grenades, obscuring vision. Butcher protected the children with his own body, taking 2 hits to his vest that would leave spectacular bruises but nothing worse. And then the ceiling exploded inward. Android 18 crashed through from above, carrying 2 of the Sentinel units with her. She hit the floor hard enough to crack concrete, still grappling with machines that wouldn't stop trying to kill her. "Go," she shouted at the boys. "Get the kids out, I'll handle this." She threw one Sentinel down the corridor toward the guards, who who scattered as 15 feet of combat robot tumbled through their position like a mechanical avalanche. The second sentinel she pivoted against, using its own momentum to slam it into a load-bearing wall hard enough that the entire structure groaned. The boys ran, carrying the children through gaps in the lockdown 18 had accidentally created, heading for emergency exits that Frenchie's earlier reconnaissance had identified. Behind them, the sounds of combat intensified, energy weapons firing, metal screaming, 18's measured breathing as she fought with the same calm efficiency she'd used against perfect cell clones. They burst out into the parking lot just as 3 more sentinels landed from the roof, surrounding 18. She was breathing harder now, not from exertion, but from the sheer amount of Kai she was expending keeping collateral damage minimal while fighting 5 opponents simultaneously. "Huey," shouted, "tell me you're getting this." Every second, Huey's voice was excited, terrified, awed. "This is insane. She's fighting 5 giant robots and winning." 18 heard that over her earpiece and couldn't help a slight smile. Not winning yet, just not losing. One of the sentinels deployed a new weapon, some kind of energy net that wrapped around her legs, actually slowing her movement. The machines had been learning, adapting, finding weaknesses in her fighting style. Time to stop playing defensive. She let her Kai flare fully, blue-white energy erupting around her like a star-going supernova. The energy net vaporized instantly. The nearest sentinel's optical sensors overloaded from the sheer intensity of power. "I tried to do this carefully," 18 said, her voice carrying across the battlefield. "Tried to minimize damage, but you're threatening children and I'm done being gentle." She attacked with the full speed and strength she'd been holding back, no longer worried about collateral damage, no longer concerned with minimizing destruction. Her first strike took Sentinel 2's head completely off. Her second punch went through Sentinel 3's chest, ripping out whatever served as its power core. She grabbed Sentinel 4 by one leg and used it as a bludgeon to destroy Sentinel 5. That left Units 1 and 2 still functional, both backing away as their tactical AIs recognized they were outmatched. 18 didn't give them the chance to retreat. She appeared between them, grabbed each by their central processors, and channeled Kai directly into their systems. The sentinels exploded from within, circuits overloading, metal superheating and melting, until nothing remained but scrap metal and smoking craters. The parking lot was devastated. The facility was half collapsed. Fires burned across multiple floors. And Android 18 stood in the center of it all, barely winded, surrounded by the wreckage of Vaught's best weapons. "Huey," she said into her earpiece, "please tell me you got all that." "Every single second." Huey's voice was almost reverent. "This is going to break the internet." "Good, let it." 18 turned toward the van where the boys were loading the rescued children. "Everyone okay?" "Minor injuries, nothing serious," reported. "Kids are all stable, we're clear too." A familiar red, white, and blue figure dropped from the sky, landing hard enough to crack the pavement. Homelander. But this wasn't the composed, media-friendly hero from the rally or even the angry warrior from Times Square. This was something broken. His costume was torn, his hair disheveled, and his eyes held a manic intensity that suggested his already fragile sanity had finally shattered completely. "You," he breathed, staring at 18 with an expression somewhere between rage and obsession. "You ruined everything, everything I built, everything I am." "You ruined yourself," 18 replied calmly, though she positioned herself between Homelander and the van. "I just showed the world what you already were." "No, no," Homelander's voice climbed in pitch. "I was perfect. I was America's hero. I was a god. And you made me look weak. You made me bleed. You made them stop loving me." "They never loved you. They loved the image Vought sold them." "Because Vought made me," Homelander screamed, and his heat vision activated involuntarily, carving molten trenches in the pavement. "They made me in a lab, raised me in a sterile room, tested me, trained me, controlled me. Everything I am, everything I can do, it's because of what they did to me. For the first time since arriving in this world, 18 felt something like pity for Homelander. She recognized that pain, that rage at being made into a weapon against your will. She'd lived it. "So fight them," she said quietly. "Not me, not innocent people. Fight the ones who actually hurt you." Homelander blinked, his heat vision cutting out as genuine confusion crossed his face. "What?" "Dr. Brennan's in there somewhere." 18 pointed at the burning facility. "The scientists who experimented on you, the executives who controlled you, the people who turned you into a product, they're at Vought Tower right now, probably planning how to replace you. You want revenge? Go get it from them." She could see the idea taking root in his fractured mind. The realization that he'd been pointing his rage at the wrong targets, that the people who'd really hurt him, who'd really betrayed him, weren't the civilians he terrorized or the woman who'd beaten him. They were the suits in boardrooms who'd created him and then discarded him the moment he became inconvenient. "They made me," Homelander repeated, but his voice was different now, quieter, more dangerous. "They made me a monster and then acted surprised when I couldn't be controlled." "Yes," 18 said. "They're still making more like me, more experiments, more children turned into weapons." His fists clenched. "That's what this facility was, what all of them are, just factories producing superpowered slaves." "Yes." Homelander looked at the burning building, at the Sentinel wreckage, at the boys loading sedated children into their van. Something shifted in his expression. Not redemption, nothing so clean, but a redirection of his psychotic rage toward more deserving targets. "I know where they are," he said. "All of them. Every scientist who worked on me. Every executive who gave orders. I know their names, their addresses, their families." He looked at 18 and his smile was terrifying. "If I kill them, all of them, will you stop me?" 18 considered carefully. She didn't approve of murder, even of people who probably deserved it. But she also recognized that Homelander was going to kill someone. The question was whether it would be innocents or the actually guilty. "I'll stop you from hurting civilians," she said finally. "I'll stop you from killing people who were just following orders, who didn't know what they were part of, but the people who knew, who made the decisions, who created all of this." She paused. "I won't lose sleep if they face consequences." "That's not a no," Homelander said, and launched himself into the sky. He flew north, back toward New York, toward Vought Tower and the people who'd made him a monster. And 18 let him go, gambling that his rage would be directed at more appropriate targets than usual. "Did you just," started, "did you just point Homelander at Vaught's leadership?" "I redirected an active threat toward people who have been committing crimes against humanity for decades," 18 replied. "If they can't handle the weapon they created, that's on them." Butcher laughed, a genuine, delighted sound. "Oh, that's beautiful. That's properly beautiful. We're dismantling Vought from the bottom, and you just sent their own attack dog to tear apart the top. Edgar's going to shit himself." "We need to move," 18 said, climbing into the van. "Vaught's going to respond to this. Bigger, harder, and next time they might bring something worse than robots." The van peeled out, heading for the highway and their next safe house. Behind them, the Virginia facility burned, adding to the growing list of Vaught's destroyed operations. In New York City, Stan Edgar's phone rang with reports from Virginia. Facility destroyed. Sentinel units eliminated. Test subjects rescued. Homelander spotted fleeing north toward the city. "Get me military command," he said calmly, "and activate all remaining Sentinel units. Every facility, maximum defensive posture. And someone find Homelander before he does something we can't cover up." But Homelander was already at the home of Dr. Samuel Markham, former head of Vaught's Enhancement Division, the man who'd overseen his childhood conditioning. The doctor answered his door at 2 a.m. to find America's greatest hero, floating in his doorway with eyes that promised death. "Hello, Doctor," Homelander said with that same corporate-friendly smile. "We need to talk about my childhood." The doctor's screaming would wake the entire neighborhood. And across the country, in a van full of rescued children and exhausted vigilantes, Android 18 stared out the window and wondered if she just made things better or infinitely worse. Ready to continue to the final sections covering Vaught's collapse, Homelander's systematic hunting of his creators, Stan Edgar's final desperate gambit, and Android 18's ultimate decision about staying or finding a way home. This is where everything comes to a head and the world fundamentally changes. The news broke at 4:47 a.m. Dr. Samuel Markham, found dead in home, Homelander suspected. By 5:15 a.m., 3 more names appeared on the growing list. Dr. Helena Vogelbaum, former chief scientist of Compound V development. Marcus Webb, retired VP of Human Enhancement. Dr. Catherine Yang, lead researcher on pediatric applications of Compound V. All dead, all killed with the same brutal efficiency. Heat vision through the skull, precise and instantaneous. No collateral damage, no witnesses, just Homelander executing a list of names that only someone with access to Vaught's deepest secrets could have compiled. By 6 a.m., the death toll was 11. Android 18 watched the coverage on a stolen tablet while the rescued children slept in the van, sedatives keeping them unconscious through the bumpy ride to MM's cousin's farm in Pennsylvania. The boys were scattered, Frenchie driving, MM riding shotgun, Butcher in back with the kids, everyone exhausted from the Virginia operation. "He's killing them all," Huey said quietly from beside her, his own tablet showing the same news. "Everyone who was involved in creating him." "Yes," 18 replied, her expression neutral. "You knew he'd do this when you pointed him at Vought." "I knew he'd redirect his rage somewhere. Better the people actually responsible than random civilians." She scrolled through the list of victims. "These weren't innocent people, Huey. They experimented on children, turned bobbies into weapons, knew exactly what they were doing and did it anyway because Vought paid them. But we don't get to be judge, jury, and executioner. That's not justice." 18 looked at him, this young man who'd lost his girlfriend to a speedster's carelessness and still believed in doing things the right way. "You're right. It's not justice, it's revenge. But sometimes when the system is so corrupted that justice is impossible, revenge is all that's left." "You sound like Butcher." "Butcher's not wrong about everything." She set down the tablet. "I don't like it either. I wish there was a clean way to handle this. But we're past clean. We're in the aftermath of decades of corporate evil, and Homelander's just one more consequence they should have seen coming." Her burner phone buzzed. Maeve. He came to the tower, demanded files on everyone who worked on him. Edgar tried to stop him. Homelander broke both his arms and took the files anyway. Buildings in lockdown, everyone's terrified. This is bad. This is really bad. M. 18 typed back, "Are you safe?" For now, he's not targeting heroes, just scientists and executives. But I don't know how long that lasts. His sanity is completely gone. "Stay away from him. If he turns on you, call me immediately." "Will do," and 18. "Thank you for giving him a target that actually deserved it." The connection ended. Maeve says Homelander attacked Edgar, 18 announced to the van. "Broke both his arms. The entire tower is in lockdown." Butcher let out a low whistle. Bold move. Edgar's untouchable, connected to half of Washington, protected by lawyers and politicians. Homelander just committed assault on one of the most powerful men in America. Homelander stopped caring about consequences, MM observed. That makes him more dangerous, not less. A soup with nothing to lose and a kill list, that's a nightmare scenario. Except his kill list is full of people who deserve it, Frenchie added from the driver's seat. Is it wrong that I am rooting for him? Just a little. Yes, Huey said. Probably, 18 agreed, but I understand the impulse. They drove in silence for another hour, finally reaching the farm as dawn broke across the Pennsylvania countryside. MM's cousin, a woman named Monique who asked no questions and had apparently been housing refugees from Vought for years, helped them carry the sleeping children inside to prepared beds. 7 more, Monique said, checking their vitals with the practiced efficiency of someone with medical training. That makes 19 total we've pulled from Vought facilities. When are they going to run out of kids to experiment on? When we burn down every lab they've got, Butcher replied. How long before these ones wake up? 12 hours, maybe more depending on what sedatives they used. When they do, they're going to be confused, probably scared. Some might have powers they can't control. Monique gave 18 a meaningful look. Will you be here? Kids like these respond better to someone strong, someone who can protect them. I'll be here, 18 said, though part of her wondered if she should be hunting the next facility instead. But Monique was right. These children would wake up in an unfamiliar place, their bodies changed by forced enhancement, their entire understanding of reality shattered. They'd need stability. She'd needed stability too, after Dr. Giro. Krillin had provided that. The least she could do was offer the same to these kids. All right, Butcher said, gathering everyone in the kitchen while Monique tended to the children. Here's where we stand. Virginia facility destroyed, 7 kids rescued, Homelander on a murder spree that's taking out Vaught's top scientists. Vaught's stock price is in free fall, lost 78% of value in 4 days. Congressional hearings scheduled for next week. FBI raided 3 more facilities overnight. Vaught's empire is collapsing in real time. So we won, Huey asked hopefully. We're winning, MM corrected. But Vaught's not dead yet. They've still got facilities, resources, political connections. And Stan Edgar, broken arms or not, is not someone who gives up easily. 18's phone rang. Not the burner, her actual phone, the one from home that shouldn't work in this dimension but somehow did. She answered, stepping away from the group for privacy. Android 18. It was Stan Edgar's voice, strained with pain but still carrying that corporate smoothness. We need to talk. How did you get this number? The same way I get everything, by being thorough and having unlimited resources. A pause, a sharp intake of breath that suggested his broken arms were causing significant pain. I'm calling to offer terms. I don't negotiate with people who torture children. Neither do I, which is why I'm currently in a hospital bed while my former golden boy murders everyone involved in our enhancement program. Edgar's voice was bitter. You've won, Android 18. Vought is finished. Our stock is worthless, our facilities are being raided by federal agents, our board of directors is fleeing to non-extradition countries. Within 6 months, Vought International will cease to exist. Congratulations. 18 said nothing, waiting. But you still have a problem, Edgar continued. Homelander. He's no longer under anyone's control. His psychological conditioning has completely broken down, and he's got a list of 372 names, everyone who ever worked on him, from janitors to CEOs. He's going to kill them all, and there's no one left who can stop him, except you. Why should I? Because eventually, he'll run out of guilty people and start killing whoever's convenient. His pattern is already breaking down. His last victim was a receptionist who just happened to work at the wrong facility. She had no idea what Vought was doing, but Homelander killed her anyway because she was there. 18's jaw tightened. You're asking me to stop the monster you created. I'm asking you to prevent more innocent deaths. Yes, many of the people on his list are guilty, but not all of them, and the longer he operates unchecked, the more collateral damage there will be. Edgar paused. And because I know you're not from this world, I'm offering you something in exchange, the location of Dr. Emil Vanzetti. Who? Vaught's chief theoretical physicist. He's been studying dimensional anomalies for 20 years, ever since we accidentally opened a portal during a Compound V experiment in 2004. If anyone in this world can send you home, it's him. 18's heart rate increased fractionally. Home, Krillin, Marin, the life she'd built, the peace she'd earned. Everything she'd been fighting to get back to since arriving in this nightmare dimension. Where is he? First, you stop Homelander. Bring him in alive if possible. He deserves trial for his crimes. Dead if necessary, but I'd prefer alive. Edgar's voice went harder. Then I'll give you Dr. Vanzetti's location and full access to his research. You get to go home. We get to salvage what's left of Vought and maybe prevent total corporate collapse that would put 30,000 innocent employees out of work. You're really playing the think of the employees card. I'm playing every card I have left, because unlike you, I can't just leave this dimension when things get difficult. This is my world, my company, my life's work, and I'll do whatever it takes to save what can be saved, even if it means negotiating with someone who's systematically destroying everything I've built. 18 walked outside, looked at the Pennsylvania farmland stretching toward the horizon. It was beautiful here, peaceful. Nothing like the corrupt cities where Vought operated. For a moment, she let herself imagine what Krillin would say about all this. He'd tell her to be careful of deals with devils, that people like Edgar always had angles, always had backup plans. But he'd also understand the desperate desire to come home, to see family again, to return to the life stolen by circumstance. I'll stop Homelander, she said finally. Not because of your deal, because you're right. He's going to hurt innocent people if he's not contained. But after that, you give me everything on Dr. Vanzetti. Every file, every research note, full access. No tricks, no delays, no corporate games. Agreed. And Edgar, if I find out you're lying about any of this, if Dr. Vanzetti doesn't exist or can't actually help me, I'm coming back. And Homelander's rampage will look gentle compared to what I do to what's left of your company. Understood. I'll have all of Vanzetti's information ready when you deliver Homelander. Edgar paused. And Android 18, thank you. I know you have no reason to trust me, but I do actually want to minimize casualties. Whatever else I am, I'm not a monster. You ran a company that experimented on bobbies. What would you call that? Edgar didn't answer. The line went dead. 18 stood in the morning sun, feeling the weight of impossible decisions. Stop Homelander. Protect innocent people from a weapon she'd helped unleash. Get information about going home. Potentially abandon this world before the job was finished. Bad news, Butcher asked, appearing at her shoulder with a cigarette dangling from his lips. Complicated news. She explained Edgar's offer, watching Butcher's expression cycle through skepticism, anger, and reluctant understanding. So you're going after Homelander, he said when she finished. Alone, I'm guessing, since he's way above our pay grade. I have to. Edgar's right. Homelander's going to start killing innocent people if he hasn't already. And I'm the only one who can stop him without massive casualties. And then you leave. Go home, let us deal with whatever's left of Vought. 18 looked back at the farmhouse where 7 rescued children slept under Monique's care. I don't know, maybe. If Dr. Vanzetti can actually send me home if I'm not needed here anymore, she trailed off. I have a daughter, Butcher, a husband, a life I didn't choose to leave. Every day I'm here, they're worried about me. Every day is one more day Marin goes to bed wondering when mommy's coming home. Butcher took a long drag on his cigarette, exhaled slowly. Yeah, I get that. Had a wife once. Lost her to Homelander's carelessness. Would have given anything to get her back, to go back to that life. He flicked ash onto the ground. So here's what we do. You go get Homelander, stop him from killing anyone who doesn't deserve it. We'll keep hitting Vaught's facilities, keep rescuing kids, keep the pressure on. And when you've got your way home figured out, he extended a hand. You take it. With our thanks and no hard feelings. 18 shook his hand, surprised by the gesture. You're okay with me leaving? Love, you've done more damage to Vought in 1 week than we've managed in 3 years. You've exposed them, humiliated them, destroyed their weapons, and given us the momentum to actually finish this fight. If you need to go home to your family, he grinned. That's the most human thing I've heard since this whole mess started. Go, be with your kid. Let us finish cleaning up. The job's not done. It's done enough. Vaught's finished, even if it takes months for the corpse to stop twitching. Homelander's the last big threat, and once he's contained, the rest is just mopping up. Butcher's expression softened slightly. You've earned your exit, 18. Take it when it comes. She nodded, not trusting herself to speak. These people, criminals, technically, vigilantes who'd committed acts that would get them life sentences. They'd become something like friends, partners in a war against overwhelming evil. I'll find Homelander, she said. Bring him in, then we'll see about going home. Need backup? MM asked, appearing with his rifle case. Because I'm not sure how much help we'd be against Homelander, but we can at least provide distraction. Appreciated, but no. This needs to be one-on-one. Less chance of collateral damage if I'm the only target. 18 checked her phone, pulled up news coverage showing Homelander's last known location, a Vought research facility in upstate New York. He's hitting facilities now, not just individual scientists. That's escalation. Or he's running out of names on his list, Huey suggested. Maybe he's moving to broader targets. Either way, I need to stop him before he levels a building with innocent people inside. 18 headed for the door, then paused. Those kids in there, when they wake up, tell them they're safe. Tell them no one's going to experiment on them anymore. And tell them that being enhanced doesn't make them weapons. They get to choose what they become. You speaking from experience? Butcher asked. Every word. She launched herself into the sky, heading north toward upstate New York and the confrontation she'd been avoiding since Times Square. Behind her, the boys watched until she disappeared into the clouds. Think she'll come back? Huey asked quietly. Hope not, Butcher replied. Hope she gets home to her family and never thinks about this shithole dimension again. That's what heroes deserve. Happy endings, not endless wars. Since when do you believe in heroes? Butcher crushed his cigarette under his boot. Since I met one who actually lived up to the name. The upstate facility was already on fire when Android 18 arrived. Not the controlled burn she'd been setting to destroy evidence. This was rage made manifest. Entire sections of the building had been melted by heat vision. Structural supports compromised so badly the whole complex was minutes from collapse. She could hear people screaming inside, trapped by flames and debris. And in the center of the parking lot, Homelander stood perfectly still, watching his former employer's facility burn. 18 landed 20 feet from him, scanning the building with her enhanced senses. 15 people still alive inside, trapped on the upper floors. Maybe 3 minutes before the structure came down completely. Homelander, she said calmly, there are people in there who need help. Good, he replied without looking at her. Let them burn. Let them feel what I felt, locked in that sterile room, tested and prodded and hurt. Let them know what it's like to be powerless. The people in there aren't the ones who hurt you. They're secretaries, janitors, security guards who just wanted a paycheck. They worked for Vought. That makes them complicit. Homelander finally turned to look at her, and his eyes were empty, not angry anymore, just hollow. Everyone who took Vought money, who looked the other way, who pretended not to know what was happening, they're all guilty. That's not how justice works. Justice? Homelander laughed, a broken sound. There is no justice for people like us. We were made to be weapons, 18. Manufactured, conditioned, deployed. The only difference between us is that you escaped. I never got that chance. 18 studied him, this broken man-god who'd never been allowed to be human. So make a different choice now. Help me save those people. Prove you're more than what Vought made you. Why would I want to prove that? They made me a god. The only mistake was pretending I should care about humans. He turned back to the burning building. Let them burn. 18 didn't argue further. She launched herself at the building, crashing through a third-story window, following the sounds of screaming to where survivors huddled in a conference room blocked by flames. She made 3 trips, carrying people out through the inferno, her Kai protecting them from the heat, moving faster than the fire could spread. On her 4th trip, the building began to collapse. She grabbed the last 2 people, a young woman who couldn't have been more than 25 and an older man with Vought credentials marking him as a researcher, and flew them out just as the structure imploded behind her. Set them down in the parking lot with the others. 15 people saved, coughing and crying but alive. "Thank you," the young woman gasped. "Thank you so much. I thought we were going to die." Homelander floated down, landing in front of the rescued group. His expression was unreadable. "You saved them," he said to 18. "Why?" "Because they're people, and people deserve a chance to live, even if they made mistakes." "Mistakes?" Homelander looked at the researcher, Dr. something or other according to his badge. "What's your name?" "Dr. Frank Mercer," the man stammered. I was a data analyst. I just processed numbers. I didn't know." "You knew," Homelander's voice went flat. "You had access to the files. You saw what Vought did, and you looked away because they paid you well." 18 positioned herself between Homelander and the survivors. "You're not killing them." "Why not? They're guilty. You said it yourself, everyone who worked for Vought is complicit." "I said the people making decisions were guilty. Scientists who designed experiments, executives who gave orders, not data analysts who processed numbers without understanding context." "That's a convenient line to draw." Homelander's eyes began to glow red. "Very convenient for them." "It's the difference between justice and murder." 18's Kai flared in response, blue-white energy matching his crimson heat vision. "And you're not crossing that line while I'm here." For a long moment, they stood there, 2 beings powerful enough to level cities, staring each other down over the lives of 15 terrified humans. The survivors scattered, running for the tree line, smart enough to understand they were witnessing something that could go catastrophically wrong at any second. Then Homelander's heat vision cut out. His shoulders slumped. "I can't beat you," he said simply. "I've tried, multiple times. You're stronger, faster, more skilled. And you actually care about these people, which gives you an advantage I'll never have." He looked at his hands. "I used to think being the strongest made me important, made me matter. But you've shown me that strength without purpose is just empty." 18 lowered her guard slightly, sensing the genuine defeat in his voice. "It's not too late to choose a different path." "Yes, it is. I've killed 17 people in the last 12 hours. Scientists, executives, people who hurt me, and people who just happened to be nearby. There's no coming back from that." He met her eyes. "But I can choose where it ends." "What does that mean?" "It means I'm turning myself in. To you specifically, since I don't trust anyone else not to just execute me quietly." Homelander extended his hands, wrists together in a gesture of surrender. "Take me to whatever prison can hold me. Let me stand trial for everything I've done. And maybe, that's enough to prove I'm more than what Vought made me." 18 studied him carefully, looking for deception. Found only exhaustion and genuine resignation. "You're serious?" "I'm tired. Tired of being angry, tired of being afraid, tired of being whatever Vought needed me to be." He glanced at the burning facility. "I destroyed everyone who hurt me. It didn't make me feel better. It just made me a murderer. So yes, I'm serious. Lock me up. Let me face consequences for once in my life." "Edgar wants you brought in alive. Said you deserve trial." "Edgar can go fuck himself, but he's not wrong about the trial part." Homelander lowered his hands. "I'll come quietly. I'll cooperate with whatever investigation they want, but I want one thing in exchange." "You're not really in a position to negotiate." "I want you to stay, in this dimension, until you're sure Vaught's really finished." He gestured at the burning building. Because if you leave, if you go home before the job's done, they'll rebuild. Maybe not with the same name, maybe not with the same people, but the system that created me, that system will come back. And next time, there might not be someone strong enough to stop it. 18 thought of Marin's face, of Krillin's smile, of home, then thought of the 7 children sleeping at Monique's farm and the dozens more still trapped in Vought facilities across the country. "I'll stay," she said finally, "until I'm sure it's finished, until every child is safe, every facility is closed, every person responsible is facing justice. Then I'll go home." "Thank you." Homelander flew up slightly, turned in the direction of New York City. "Vought Tower, that's where Edgar wants me delivered, right? That's where he's expecting you. Then let's go disappoint him by actually showing up." They flew together, the broken god and the interdimensional warrior, heading toward the monument to corporate evil that had created one and drawn the other into this war. Behind them, 15 survivors watched in stunned disbelief as the 2 most powerful beings on Earth departed peacefully. And in that moment, the world changed irrevocably. Vought Tower loomed against the Manhattan skyline like a monument to hubris, 87 floors of glass and steel, crowned with a massive V that lit up the night sky. Android 18 had destroyed alien empires that were more humble. She and Homelander descended toward the executive landing pad on the 75th floor, where a reception committee waited. Federal agents in tactical gear, their weapons trained upward despite knowing bullets would be useless. A team of Vought lawyers, already preparing damage control. And Stan Edgar himself, both arms in casts, flanked by private security who looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. They landed simultaneously. Homelander immediately placed his hands behind his back in a posture of surrender. The agents swarmed him, applying restraints that were purely theatrical, carbon fiber cuffs that might hold a normal human but would snap like tissue paper if Homelander decided to leave. He didn't. "Mr. Homelander," an FBI agent said formally, reading from a card with shaking hands. "You are under arrest for 17 counts of first-degree murder, destruction of federal property, assault on a corporate executive, and violations of the Superhuman Accountability Act. You have the right to remain silent." "I know my rights," Homelander interrupted calmly. "I'll waive them. I did everything you're accusing me of and more. I'll provide a complete confession, names, locations, evidence, all of it." The agents exchanged glances, clearly not expecting compliance. "Why?" one of them asked. "Because I'm tired of being what they made me." Homelander looked at Edgar, who stood rigid despite his broken arms. "And because the only way to make sure Vought actually ends is to expose everything. Every experiment, every cover-up, every crime committed in the name of creating heroes. I'm the evidence. I'm the proof. Use me." Stan Edgar's expression never changed, but 18 could see the calculation behind his eyes. Homelander's confession would destroy what remained of Vought, but it would also prevent his escape, remove him as a threat, allow the legal system to process him appropriately. "Android 18, Edgar said, turning his attention to her. "Thank you for your assistance. As agreed, I have Dr. Vanzetti's research prepared for you. If you'll follow my associate," he gestured to a nervous young man in an expensive suit, "he'll take you to the secure archives." "Not yet," 18 crossed her arms. "First, I want confirmation that every Vought facility with test subjects has been raided, that every child is safe." The FBI has been executing raids simultaneously across 15 states, one of the federal agents confirmed, pulling out a tablet. "As of 30 minutes ago, all known Vought experimental facilities are in federal custody. We've recovered 63 individuals from active testing, 42 adults, 21 minors. All are receiving medical care. And the facilities themselves, being secured as evidence. Nothing will be operational again." The agent looked at Edgar. "Mr. Edgar, you're also under arrest. along with 73 other Vought executives and senior staff. We have warrants for crimes including human experimentation, conspiracy, fraud, and multiple counts of negligent homicide. Edgar's lawyers immediately began protesting, something about unlawful seizure and violation of corporate rights and jurisdictional overreach. Edgar silenced them with a look. "Save it for the judge," he said quietly. Then to 18, satisfied, every facility raided, every test subject freed, every executive arrested. Vought International is finished. You've won. This isn't about winning. It's about making sure children aren't turned into weapons anymore. 18 studied him. But yes, I'm satisfied that the immediate threat is contained. Then let's discuss your compensation. Edgar nodded to his associate. Marcus, take her to Archives Level 7, full access to the Vanzetti materials, and Android 18, he met her gaze. Despite everything, I respect what you've done here. You could have simply destroyed us all. Instead, you fought for something better. That's more than most heroes would have managed. I'm not a hero, 18 replied. I'm just someone who knows what it's like to be made into a weapon, and who won't let it happen to anyone else if I can help it. She followed Marcus into the building, leaving Homelander in federal custody. Behind her, she heard agents beginning to read Edgar his rights, heard lawyers shouting about illegal detention, heard the sound of an empire collapsing in real time. Archives Level 7 was deep underground, 30 floors below street level, accessible only by special elevator with biometric security that Marcus bypassed using emergency credentials Edgar had provided. The elevator descended in silence, and 18 used her Kai senses to scan for traps, ambushes, any sign that this was a setup. She detected none, just the electromagnetic hum of servers and the faint heartbeat of one person waiting at the bottom. The doors opened onto a space that looked more like a university laboratory than a corporate archive. Whiteboards covered in complex equations, server banks processing what looked like dimensional mathematics, and in the center of it all, an elderly man with wild white hair and kind eyes magnified by thick glasses. Android 18, I presume. He extended a hand. Dr. Emil Vanzetti, I've been expecting you, though I admit I didn't expect our meeting to occur during the complete dissolution of my employer. You worked for Vought, 18 said, not shaking his hand. You knew what they did. I worked asterisk with asterisk Vought on a very specific research question. Is travel between parallel dimensions possible, and if so, how? Vanzetti lowered his hand without offense. I was given unlimited funding and complete independence, with the understanding that I would never participate in enhancement research or human experimentation. I kept that promise for 20 years. And if Vought had asked you to break it, I'd have refused and destroyed my research rather than let it be weaponized. Vanzetti walked to a computer terminal, began pulling up files. I'm not a good man, Ms. Android 18. I took money from a corrupt corporation because they were the only ones willing to fund theoretical physics that might not produce results for decades. But I have lines I won't cross. Children in laboratories, that's well past my line. 18 studied him, using the instincts she developed over years of fighting gods and monsters. Found no deception in his posture or voice. Just an old scientist who'd made a deal with devils because no angels were offering research grants. Show me what you have, she said. Vanzetti's eyes lit up with genuine excitement. Oh, you're going to love this, or hate it. It's genuinely 50-50. He pulled up holographic displays showing energy patterns that looked familiar, the same resonance she'd felt when falling through the dimensional rift. In 2004, we had an accident during a compound V stability test. A subject's powers interacted with our containment field in an unexpected way, and for approximately 7 seconds, we opened a portal to somewhere else. Another dimension. Another universe entirely. Different physical laws, different history, but close enough to ours that the portal was stable briefly before collapsing. Vanzetti zoomed in on energy signatures. We tried for years to replicate it. Couldn't. The exact conditions were too specific, too dependent on variables we couldn't control. But we learned enough to detect dimensional signatures. He looked at her. You don't emit normal energy. Your power source is unlike anything in our universe. Which means you're definitely not from here. I knew that already. Yes, but knowing and proving are different things. I can prove where you came from, or at least, what type of dimensional variance exists between your universe and ours. More importantly, he pulled up another display, I can open a portal back. 18's heart rate spiked. You can send me home. In theory, yes. In practice, Vanzetti's expression grew serious. It requires an enormous amount of energy, more than any conventional power source can provide. The 2004 incident only worked because a soup's powers accidentally created the right conditions. To do it intentionally, we'd need a power source equivalent to a small star. How small? 10 to the 15th watts, sustained for approximately 30 seconds. Vanzetti showed her the calculations. For context, that's more energy than the entire eastern seaboard uses in a year. No reactor we have can produce that output. No soup we've tested can generate that sustained power. It's theoretically possible but practically impossible. 18 looked at the equations, at the energy requirements, and began to laugh. What's funny? Vanzetti asked, confused. You need a power source equivalent to a small star. She raised her hand, let Chi energy dance across her fingers. Blue-white power that made the air shimmer. I've been training with people who can destroy actual stars for 15 years. 10 to the 15th watts, that's what I'd call a warm-up. Vanzetti's jaw dropped. You're saying you can personally generate that much power? Sustained for 30 seconds, easily. I could probably maintain it for an hour if necessary. She studied the portal designs. How long would it take to set up the equipment? If we have the components, maybe 6 hours to assemble, another 2 for calibration. The portal would be unstable, probably only last a few seconds, but that should be enough time for you to transit. Vanzetti was already making notes, calculations flying across his screens. We'd need to do it somewhere remote, though. The energy discharge would be visible for miles. And if something goes wrong, if the portal collapses while you're in transit, what happens? Honestly, I have no idea. You'd be caught between dimensions, possibly scattered across infinite parallel realities, or simply cease to exist. The math gets very uncertain at that point. 18 thought of Krillin, of Marin, of home, of waking up in her own bed, making breakfast with her family, returning to the peaceful life she'd built. Then she thought of the 63 people freed from Vought facilities today, the children who'd never be experimented on now that the company was collapsing, the future lives saved by the empire she'd helped dismantle. Do it, she said. Prepare everything, I'll provide the power. And if something goes wrong, she shrugged. I've survived worse odds. When? 3 days. That gives federal authorities time to process everyone we've rescued, gives me time to make sure Vaught's actually finished, and gives you time to assemble the best equipment possible. She met his eyes. And Dr. Vanzetti, if this is a trap, if you're setting me up for Vaught's benefit, know that I'll survive whatever you throw at me, and then I'll come back very angry. It's not a trap. I genuinely want to help you go home. Vanzetti smiled sadly. I had a daughter once, lost her in the 2004 incident. She was the test subject whose powers opened the portal. It killed her. If I can help someone else get back to their family, maybe that balances the scales a little. 18's expression softened. I'm sorry for your loss. So am I every day. He returned to his calculations. 3 days then, I'll have everything ready. Where should we do this? Somewhere far from civilians, rural, uninhabited if possible. The energy discharge you mentioned. I don't want anyone hurt if it goes wrong. I know a place, old Vought testing facility in Nevada, been abandoned for 15 years. Perfect isolation, no one for 50 miles in any direction. Vanzetti sent her coordinates. Meet me there in 72 hours. And Android 18, good luck. I hope you make it home. So do I. And Android 18 emerged from Vought Tower to find the world had changed. Again. News helicopters circled the building, broadcasting Homelander's arrest to billions of viewers. Protesters had gathered, some demanding his execution, others calling him a victim of corporate manipulation. Police had established barricades to keep them separate. And waiting for her on the street, the boys stood beside their van. Figured you might need a ride, Butcher said, leaning against the hood with his characteristic irreverence. Vought Tower's not exactly friendly territory at the moment. Homelander's in custody, 18 reported. Edgar's arrested. Federal agents are processing everything. It's over. Is it though? Asked quietly. Because from where I'm standing, we've knocked down one tower, but the foundation's still there. Compound V still exists. The technology still exists. Someone else will try to rebuild. Not if we destroy the foundation too. 18 climbed into the van. Drive, I'll explain on the way. They headed north, back toward Pennsylvania and the safe house where rescued children still slept. As they drove, 18 explained Dr. Vanzetti's portal, the 3-day timeline, her plan to go home once she was certain Vought couldn't rebuild. 3 days, Huey said softly. That's not much time. It's enough. Federal investigation's already underway. Homelander's testimony will bury anyone we missed. The media's turned on Vought completely. They're reporting things we couldn't prove before. 18 pulled up news articles on her phone. Stock price is 0. Board of directors has resigned. Subsidiary companies are declaring bankruptcy to avoid prosecution. In 3 days, there won't be a Vought International anymore. What about Compound V itself? Frenchie asked. The formula still exists. The research still exists. What stops someone from just starting over under a different name? Nothing, 18 admitted. But that's not a problem I can solve. I'm not from this world. I can't stay here forever playing watchdog. At some point, you have to trust that people will make better choices. People rarely do, Butcher said darkly. Then you keep fighting. You, the boys, people like Maeve who are trying to be better, you keep exposing corruption, keep rescuing victims, keep holding power accountable. 18 met his eyes in the rearview mirror. I can stop immediate threats, but building something better, that's your job. You live here. This is your world to fix. They drove in silence for a while, processing that. So this is goodbye, Huey finally said. In 3 days you go home and we never see you again. Probably, though if dimensional travel becomes more common, maybe I'll visit, show you pictures of my daughter. Let Krillin meet the people who helped me survive this nightmare. She smiled slightly. He'd like you, all of you. He's got a thing for people who fight impossible odds with nothing but determination. He sounds like a smart man, said. He's the best man I know, and he's been waiting for me to come home for. She checked the date, calculated time dilation. Probably about 8 days in my timeline. He's going to be so worried. Then you go back to him, Butcher said firmly. Go home, be with your family, live your life. Let us handle the cleanup here. You've earned it. They reached the Pennsylvania farm as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. The children were awake now, 19 of them, ranging from 6 to 17, gathered in Monique's living room looking lost and scared and uncertain. 18 spent the next 3 days with them. Not fighting, not destroying facilities or confronting corrupt executives, just being there, answering questions about what happened to them, about Compound V, about the powers they were developing, showing them that being enhanced didn't mean being a weapon, that they could choose their own paths. The youngest, a girl named Sarah with skin that shifted colors like a chameleon, attached herself to 18 almost immediately, followed her everywhere, asked endless questions about where 18 came from and whether she had powers, and if having powers meant she was a monster. "You're not a monster," 18 told her, sitting on the porch while Sarah practiced changing her skin color. "You're a person who something bad happened to. What you do with that, how you use your abilities, that's your choice. Not Vaught's, not anyone else's, yours." "But what if I can't control it? What if I hurt someone?" "Then you learn control, you practice, you find people who can teach you." 18 thought of Master Roshi, of Kami's lookout, of all the training she'd done to master her own power. Having abilities is like having strength, it's what you do with them that matters. "Will you teach me?" 18's heart broke a little. "I can't, I'm leaving soon, going back to my own family." "Oh," Sarah's skin flickered through several colors, blues and grays that suggested sadness. "Everyone always leaves." "Not everyone, Monique's staying. The boys are staying, and they'll make sure you're taken care of, that you learn to control your power safely." 18 pulled out her phone, showed Sarah a picture of Marin that somehow had survived the dimensional transit. "This is my daughter. She's waiting for me at home. I need to get back to her." Sarah studied the picture. "She's pretty. Does she have powers?" "Not yet. She's training to be a martial artist, though. Maybe someday she'll be even stronger than me." "I hope so. Then she can protect people like you do." On the second day, federal agents arrived to interview the rescued children, to document what had happened to them, to begin the legal process of bringing Vaught's surviving executives to trial. 18 watched from a distance, ready to intervene if anyone tried to hurt these kids again, but the agents were gentle, professional. They treated the children like victims rather than evidence. Progress maybe. On the third day, she said goodbye. "You sure about this?" Butcher asked, watching her prepare to leave. "Once you're gone, if something comes up that needs your particular skill set, then you figure it out like you did before I arrived. You're smart, resourceful, and willing to do what's necessary. You don't need me." She clasped his shoulder. "But thank you for trusting me, for fighting alongside me, for giving me a reason to stay until the job was done. Thank you for actually finishing it. Most people who say they'll help, they disappear when things get hard. You stuck around." She shook hands with who slipped her a piece of paper. "My cousin's phone number. If you ever come back to this dimension, if you need anything, call. We take care of family, and after what you've done, your family." Frenchie hugged her enthusiastically. "You are the most magnificent agent of chaos I have ever witnessed. Please consider returning if you get bored of domestic life. We could do such beautiful destruction together." Huey was last, and he looked like he wanted to say something profound but couldn't find the words. Finally settled on, "Thank you for showing me that real heroes exist, even if they're from other dimensions." "You're a hero too, Huey. You all are, don't forget that." Sarah appeared from the farmhouse, running across the yard to throw her arms around 18's waist. "Do you have to go?" "I do, my family needs me." 18 knelt down, looked the girl in the eyes. "But you're going to be fine, better than fine. You're going to be amazing. And someday, when you're older and have control of your powers, you'll help other people like these men helped you. Promise? Promise?" She hugged the girl one more time, then launched herself into the sky before she could change her mind. The Nevada facility was exactly where Vanzetti had indicated, a desolate cluster of buildings in the middle of nowhere, abandoned so long that sand had half buried the entrance. Dr. Vanzetti was already there, having transported an impressive amount of equipment across the desert. "Android 18, he greeted her, looking exhausted but excited. "Everything's ready. The portal generator is calibrated, the energy conduits are aligned. All we need is your power source." She examined his setup, looked crude but functional, like something Bulma might have built in her garage. "Walk me through it." "Simple enough in theory. You channel your energy here." He pointed to a spherical chamber. "I'll use that to power the dimensional fold, which should create a stable portal for approximately 5 seconds. You jump through, The portal collapses behind you and you're home. And if it fails catastrophically, you might be scattered across dimensions. If it fails mundanely, nothing happens and we troubleshoot. Vanzetti adjusted his glasses. I won't lie to you, this is experimental. I'm 70% confident it'll work, maybe 75%. I've bet my life on worse odds. 18 stepped up to the chamber, placed her hands on the energy receptors. How much power and for how long? Everything you've got for 30 seconds, then immediately transit through the portal. Don't hesitate, don't look back, just go. She closed her eyes, centered herself, thought of home. Of Krillin's smile when she walked through the door, of Marin's excited shriek of "Mommy," and the feeling of small arms around her neck, of peaceful Sunday mornings and family dinners, and all the ordinary moments that made life worth living. Her Kai flared. Blue-white energy erupted from her core, flowing into the chamber with enough force to make the entire structure shake. Vanzetti's equipment screamed to life, gauges redlining, alarms blaring as power far beyond their design specifications poured through makeshift conduits. That's incredible, Vanzetti shouted over the noise. Readings are off the scale, more power than I calculated by orders of magnitude. 18 pushed harder, remembering every technique she'd learned. The energy control Krillin had taught her, the power multiplication from training with Goku, the discipline from Wise's lessons. Every ounce of strength she developed over decades of martial arts, channeled into one purpose, getting home. The air in front of her split open. A tear in reality itself, showing glimpses of somewhere else. Green grass and blue sky and a small house on an island that looked achingly familiar. Home, her home, right there close enough to touch. 30 seconds, Vanzetti called out, "Go now." Android 18 hesitated, looking back at the desert, at this world she'd fought to save. Thinking of the boys and the rescued children and Maeve and everyone who'd helped her or been helped by her. "Thank you," she said, not sure if anyone could hear over the portal's roar. Then she jumped. The sensation of dimensional transit was indescribable, like being stretched across infinite distance while compressed to a single point, existing everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. She felt herself pulled apart and reassembled, every molecule screaming in protest, her energy reserves depleting at alarming rates just to keep herself cohesive. And then she was falling through familiar air toward familiar ground, the portal collapsing behind her with a thunderclap of displaced atmosphere. She hit Earth hard enough to crater it, lay there stunned for a moment, then slowly pushed herself up. Looked around. It was their island, their house. Late afternoon from the angle of the sun, birds singing in trees she'd planted years ago. Everything exactly as she'd left it except. "Mommy!" Marin exploded from the house, moving faster than a 9-year-old had any right to move, launching herself at 18 with enough force to knock over a normal person. 18 caught her daughter, held her tight, and for the first time in 8 days, or was it 10? Time dilation made it hard to track, let herself cry. You're back," Marin was sobbing and laughing simultaneously. "Daddy said you'd come home, but you were gone so long and I was scared." "I know, baby, I know, I'm sorry. I got lost, but I'm home now." Krillin appeared in the doorway, and the relief on his face was overwhelming. He crossed the distance in 3 steps, wrapped both of them in his arms, and just held on like he'd never let go. 10 days, he said into her hair. "You were gone 10 days. What happened? Where were you?" Different dimension, long story, lots of fighting, some good people, some terrible ones. I'll tell you everything. She pulled back enough to see his face. "But later, right now I just want to be home." "You are home," Krillin said firmly, "and you're not leaving again without me. Deal?" "Deal." They stood there on their island, the 3 of them, a family reunited. An android 18, who'd fought gods and monsters and corrupt corporations, who'd saved countless lives and destroyed an empire, let herself be just a wife and mother coming home from an unexpectedly long trip. Inside, Master Roshi was on the phone with someone. "She's back. Yes, I can confirm Android 18 just appeared in a crater in her yard. No, she seems fine. Maybe a little tired. Should I tell Goku? What do you mean he already knows? How does he always know these things?" Later, she'd call Bulma, who'd want every detail about dimensional physics and portal mechanics. She'd visit Goku, who'd probably challenge her to a sparring match to see if that other dimension made you stronger. She'd reconnect with friends and deal with the questions, and eventually tell the full story. But right now, in this moment, she was just 18. A mother holding her daughter. A wife leaning against her husband. Home. 6 months later. The world Android 18 had left behind continued without her, as worlds do. Vought International ceased to exist as a corporate entity. Its assets were seized, its executives prosecuted, its legacy dismantled piece by piece through federal trials that lasted months. Stan Edgar received 15 consecutive life sentences. Homelander was remanded to a specialized facility designed to hold enhanced individuals, one he could escape from easily but chose not to, serving his sentence with the same quiet resignation he'd shown during arrest. The boys disbanded officially but never really separated. Butcher started a consulting firm helping investigate corporate corruption. Became an advocate for victims of unauthorized enhancement. Frenchie opened a legitimate demolition company. Huey went to law school, determined to fight Vaught's successors before they could grow powerful. Queen Maeve retired from superhero work entirely, changed her name, moved to a small town in Montana where no one cared about the Seven. She worked at a veterinary clinic and occasionally received postcards from a Pennsylvania farm signed Sarah and Friends. The 19 children rescued from Vaught's facilities were placed in foster care, given therapy, taught to control their powers safely. Most of them lived relatively normal lives. A few became heroes, real ones, not corporate products. Sarah opened a school for enhanced children when she turned 23, teaching them control and choice and compassion. And sometimes, late at night when the news showed some new corporation trying to create super soldiers or some government program experimenting with human enhancement, people remembered the woman who'd appeared from nowhere and destroyed an empire in a week. They called her the Angel of Justice, the Dimensional Warrior, the woman who made Homelander bleed. But on a small island in the middle of the ocean, she was just 18, making pancakes for her daughter, training with her husband, living the peaceful life she'd earned through decades of fighting. And if sometimes she thought about the boys and wondered how they were doing, if she occasionally considered returning to check on Sarah and the other children, well, Krillin noticed but never commented. He knew his wife, knew she'd go back if they needed her, knew she'd fight impossible odds to protect people she barely knew. It was one of the many reasons he loved her. "Mommy," Marin asked one morning over breakfast, "where did you really go when you disappeared?" 18 looked at Krillin, who shrugged. "Your call." "I went somewhere that needed help," she said finally. "Somewhere bad people were hurting children, and I stopped them." "Did you win?" "I helped the people who lived there win for themselves. That's better than winning alone." "Oh," Marin thought about that. "When I grow up, can I help people too?" 18 smiled, ruffled her daughter's hair. "You can do anything you want, sweetie. That's the whole point." And in that moment, on that island, with her family around her, and the morning sun streaming through the windows, Android 18 was exactly where she belonged. Home. Thank you for following Android 18's journey through the boys' universe. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe for more What If crossover scenarios exploring your favorite characters in unexpected worlds. What character should face the boys' universe next? Let me know in the comments.